I am a Liverpudlian, and I come from the Spion Cup. I love to sing, I love to shout, I get thrown out quite a lot. We support the team that's dressed in red. It's a team that you all know. It's a team that we call Liverpool, and to glory we will go.
Hello one and all, and welcome to the PLastic Scousers podcast. Here we are with the final review of the 2017-18 season for Liverpool Football Club. And joining me, Matt Simpson, today is my usual co-host, a man with the key stats of 24, -5 and 102 respectively, Owen Collins.
Yes, I mean, I'd love to spend the next hour telling you all of those stats, but I mean, the salient point was 19, obviously, isn't it?
19, of course, yeah. 19.
I mean, you can look at it in terms of ratios and percentages. You can look at it in terms of, it's some of the highest numbers since 1976. But what really matters is 19, and without that, really, the rest of it is just doesn't make sense.
No, of course.
No. But anyway, as we reach the climax of this very long season, the PLastic Scousers will be once again bringing you all of the games, goals and talking points from the final fixtures of the season. We have the second leg of the European semi-final, 2 more Premier League games and possibly even a cup final to discuss. No spoilers, and whatever happens, we'll be bringing the insight and irreverence that we are famed for.
Indeed, no spoilers indeed. As well as that, we complete our lineup, plus fill the bench in the last round of our Despicable 11. Myself and my co-host maintain our usual tradition of bringing back some of our favourite features of the last 12 months, and we prepare our plans for the summer break and the World Cup, of course. But before that, we have a Champions League semi-final to complete. Following a fantastic 5-2 victory at home to AS Roma, we have to go and finish the job over at the Stadio Olimpico.
Yes, the Stadio Olimpico, where we've had some very famous nights in the past, including winning the European Cup in 1984, which you could argue was a good omen going into the semi-final. Like you say, we're 5-2 up already, so arguably this was probably going to be the most foregone conclusion of the season, other than the home game against Porto. But basically, I can't think of any other time in history where a European Cup semi-final second leg has been so, I don't want to use the word irrelevant, but almost preordained before it's even kicked off. But this being Liverpool, of course, we didn't make it easy for ourselves, did we?
No, you are absolutely right. I mean, it's a 3-goal lead is a 3-goal lead, but remember, Roma in the previous round had overturned a 3-goal away first leg defeat to take out the mighty Barcelona. So this was definitely not, this was still one that, I mean, at any point when you're watching Liverpool, you're going to be nervous, but they I think they felt they could do it. So, we look at the starting lineup, and it's pretty much the strongest one you could expect. We won't go too much into it, but it's all the big hitters are there, with Wijnaldum in midfield, chosen to play in that position. And because of injuries, Ben Woodburn, who's rarely made an appearance all season, despite a breakout season last year, makes the bench in a Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, it's weird, really. It's a very... well, I mean, we saw Conor Masterson, didn't we, make the bench against Man City in the quarter-final first leg. And it's a kind of crazy bench in that you've literally got 3 defending players and then 3 basically out-and-out attackers, and there's just no midfield options at all, are there?
No.
You look at that bench and your 2 strongest midfield options are Ben Woodburn and Alberto Moreno.
Yeah, I mean, midfield's a bit thin, to say the least, with injuries to Chan, Lallana.
Thin. It's verging on anorexic. You know what I mean?
I mean, the 3 who could play there were the 3 who are playing there. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the one thing. The other stat that was quite interesting before the start of this game was Roma hadn't actually conceded a goal at home in the entire tournament.
No, well, that is interesting because it's like sort of two, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, to get physical about it, in that we hadn't failed to score away all tournament as well, going right back to Hoffenheim. In every away game in the Champions League this season, we've got at least one goal, and they haven't conceded at home. So it was like, which of those stats is gonna last?
It didn't take us long to find out, did it?
Not at all. No, just under 10 minutes, in fact.
And it's the left boot, Sadio Mane. Yes, Sadio Mane. He's broken through. Roberto Firmino plays him in. Defence is nowhere to be seen, and dinks it past the goalkeeper. And yeah, within 10 minutes, that defensive record that Roma had is gone. We've got one away goal already. It's now 6-2, and I mean, what a start!
Yeah, what a start! And at this point, you kind of allow yourself to think, this really is kind of done and dusted now after 10 minutes. And we say dinks it over the goalkeeper. I mean, it was a really easy goal to concede, considering how much we hear about Roma's very strong defence. I mean, obviously we put 5 past them in the first leg, and even at home they, like you say, it was sort of straight through defence. And the goalkeeper, Alisson, who is apparently worth £75 million of our money, which I remain unconvinced of, but we'll come to that later in the summer, I'm sure. Yeah, so, you would say 10 minutes gone, tie done and dusted, 6-2.
Surely.
But once again, this is Liverpool. We don't do it the easy way.
No, and I mean, this has a real stroke of bad luck about it, because it's an own goal from a man who has made more Champions League assists than anyone else in history, James Milner. But I mean, he could do nothing. This was a freak home goal, really. Routine
clearance, sort of interception, clears it, boots it out from about the 6-yard box, straight into the side of James Milner's head, who isn't even fully looking. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of turning away, side of the face. And I mean, it says a lot that, it didn't bobble over the line, did it? It was a proper rebound, which says a lot about how hard Lovren was clearing it. But I mean, Milner was lucky not to get a bit of concussion from that, I thought.
He really was.
Which is again a topical subject we will come to later, I'm sure.
Sure. But yeah, that
no spoilers.
That brings Roma, gives them another goal. It's 6-3 now. And it's already you're already thinking, oh god, it's going to be another one of these, isn't it? And then the most remarkable thing, maybe not all season, but it's definitely in the top 3, happens on the 25th minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the 7th goal we've scored on aggregate in a Champions League semi-final. It's probably, I would say an equally remarkable fact, but it is quite flabbergasting that our 7th goal, and bearing in mind this is an away game, comes from, a very unlikely source, Gini Wijnaldum. Or to give him his full name, Gini Wijnaldum, Gini Wijnaldum, etc.
Yes, Gini Wijnaldum. His first away goal for us in nearly 3 years. His first away goal for an English side, so that's 4 years. And it comes in probably the biggest away game you can imagine.
I mean, that is insane. Yeah, it's a decent enough goal, isn't it? It's a little header. It's a bit like the one Coutinho scored against Petr Cech back in December, if you can remember that one, but from a more central angle. Ball kind of floats over the defenders. Gini, who's not a particularly tall fella, bounces up to get it and just kind of, it doesn't have a lot of force on it, but it's just enough to kind of bounce it again over the keeper. Do you know what I mean? It's a sort of, reminds me of like an old sort of platform game. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of a ball is like Mario bouncing along over springy sort of things.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's my analogy.
Yes, your great insight there. Terrific. And it's 7-3 on aggregate. And I mean, for the rest of the first half, it definitely became a bit of a non-entity. So we go into half time, 7-3 on aggregate in a Champions League semi-final.
Just mental, absolutely mental. Even at this point, though, you can't quite allow yourself to be comfortable.
No,
You know what I mean?
no, and I mean it didn't take long in the second half just to put another edge on it, as Edin Dzeko, who seemed to score in every single Champions League game he played, scored again here, and it makes it 2-2. And I mean, they still needed 3, but there was still that edge of nerves about it.
Oh, they needed 3 for extra time. Yeah, I mean, still very unlikely, but we like to do it the hard way.
Yeah, the thing is, the rest of the second half was actually pretty much a non-event, because even they sort of didn't, as we sort of stifled them, we defended well, well organised, didn't look particularly troubled. We seemed to take the sting out of the game, and they did lose that kind of momentum and that sense that they could do it.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was petering out as a contest. And in a way, it's quite surprising that a contest so sort of one-sided in the first half took until, sort of the last, 35% to actually peter out. It's a kind of testament to Roma. But then 10 minutes from the end, and it definitely stopped petering out and got a bit hairy, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually all the way up to the 86th minute.
That's it.
Yeah, when Raja Nyangala... How do you pronounce this guy's name?
Smith.
Yeah. What?
That's Nangalan?
No, Nyangalan.
No, something like that. I thought it was just Nangalan.
Naga. Anyway, the number 4 for Roma. He hits a shot from about 25 yards, which is absolutely brilliant, to be fair. Karius hasn't got a chance, and it cannons in off the foot of the post. And, well, I mean, he doesn't even celebrate because it's so late into the game.
Yeah, I mean, there was kind of a sense that it was too little too late from all sides, really, wasn't it? It was just a bit... I mean, it was just a shame that we were looking at, losing the fixture. It would be the first game we've lost all season in Europe. You thought we might get one back, but there wasn't really any... there wasn't really an awful lot of effort to do so. We'd made... one of our subs by this point with Mane coming off for Clavan, so a nice attacking change there. And then just after that, Dominic Solanke and Nathaniel Klein both came on for Firmino and Trent Alexander-Arnold, which you could arguably say is another deficit in attacking. If you take off Alexander-Arnold and Firmino and put on Solanke and Klein, you're sort of one down there. But we were just sort of seeing it out, weren't we, until the 90th minute, just after the 90th minute?
Yeah, pretty much bang on.
Yeah, when just another ridiculous penalty decision. Let's not forget the ridiculous one given against James Milner in the first leg for alleged handball.
Yeah.
And this one was against Clavan, wasn't it?
It was even worse as well, because literally Clavan's hands are by his side. Clavan's hands. I'm glad we finally got to use that.
Oh, what a reference.
I know, that's as obscure as it gets. But, yeah, Clavan's arms are by his side, and the ball just hits him like on the sort of arm/chest and comes off. Like he has, talk about not making an effort. He's actually made an effort to keep his arms by his side, to not handball it, and they still give a bloody penalty. I mean, we've had no luck with penalties all season. We really haven't.
No, we haven't. I mean, it was barely ball to hand, was it? It was more like say, ball to chest. It was our favourite surname. Jeffrey Smith took it again.
Belgium's Jeffrey Smith.
And at this point, you get a bit worried because, I mean, we're into stoppage time already. And they still need another goal just to take to extra time. But there was a definite hush around the stadium and the pub where I was watching it, certainly from Liverpool fans, when this went in. But as soon as we kicked off again from the centre circle, that was it. Full time whistle blew. And it was into the Champions League final for the first time in 11 years.
So apparently, I don't know who gone up to the ref and said, like, how long have we got left? But apparently the ref said to him that, I'll give the penalty. I'm going to stop the game after this. It's fine. So all the Liverpool players just went, right, just leave it. Just back off. But yeah.
Which is, you think at that point they should have done something just ridiculously, gutsy, like have Karius take the kick off again from centre circle, or something just piss takey like that.
At
But
this,
it's probably
at this,
a bit disrespectful.
yeah, and at this stage, I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah, me too. I think if we played a bit like the Man City game in January, if we played another 10 minutes, we'd probably have thrown it away. But
yeah, absolutely.
But we didn't, and we didn't. So
just this most incredible European run has reached the final stage. I mean, neither of us ever saw this coming.
I think I might have mentioned it at some point, but not in too much seriousness.
But it happened. It's actually happened. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's really hard to get too excited about it with benefit of hindsight. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but you have to think about it in context. Like, this is already a much more successful season than we ever imagined.
Yes, in terms of that angle.
So and I still we still had a job to do first before anything else. Anyway, because we're in the Champions League final. And just a little caveat to that, in what has become a very popular internet sensation, was James Milner's interview after the game. Because pretty much every single player after the game went and spoke to the BT Sport guys, including James Milner, who had something very interesting to offer up.
Yeah, the interviewer asked if there would be a chance that him and his teammates would have a couple of glasses of Italian red to celebrate, as they're in obviously the capital that night. And Milner said, "Yeah, maybe some of the other lads might stretch out and have some Ribena," which just, I mean, what a man.
Yeah, I mean, talk about playing the stereotype up as much as he can. He's such a good sport about the whole thing.
He has. He's taken self-deprecation to new heights. He's made it a fine art, and he's it's just, you can't not like James Milner. I don't get it. And when we go and play at the bloody Etihad and other Man City fans boo Milner, it's like, if there was ever evidence that Man City fans don't really understand football and what is great about football, it is the way they boo James Milner. Yeah. Anyone who boos James Milner doesn't get football.
No, certainly not English football. He's a very English player, isn't he? Really, in every respect.
He is. He would make a fantastic well, you'd love him to have a sort of career outside of football if he wasn't so boring. Do you know what I mean? A bit like like Phil Tufnell or someone like that, or was for cricket. You can see Milner really making the most of his sort of, well, I want to say media personality, but it's a bit ironic because his personality is built on having no personality. But he's got such a bottomless well of humour and quality. He
is something of an enigma as well, because you can't work out where he plays on the pitch. Because no matter where he plays, he's good, and then he turns up and he's sort of one of the funniest footballers around, but you don't really see or know about it.
Yeah, and he's so kind of deadpan about it that you don't really you're not even sure that he's doing it on purpose sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, so that was the Champions League final done and dusted, or qualification for it at least. But like you say, there was a small matter of qualifying for next year's competition, and we couldn't really put all our eggs in a basket of winning the final, so it was back to the Premier League. And down to West London. An interesting haunting ground for us. In the last few years, we've actually had a pretty good time there. Had a good couple of wins and draws there. So, it's been, it's not necessarily been the worst place for us in recent times. No. That 3-1 just after clock took over, a particularly happy memory.
Yes, and of course Henderson's greatest ever goal as well last year.
Oh yes. So yes, if you could do that for England this World Cup, that would be something.
That would be spectacular. But the thing we had here, of course, coming back from Rome on a Tuesday night, as it was it Tuesday or Wednesday? It was Wednesday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, and we were playing again on the Sunday, so there was that element of, especially with a midfield that was basically only had 3 players in it at the moment. There was a huge element of, we don't have the squad's really threadbare. And I think that sort of sums up how well. If you look at the lineup, we didn't really make one change, and Henderson came out. I'm not quite sure why it was him specifically, but it was. And in came Nathaniel Klein, moving Trent Alexander-Arnold into midfield.
Yeah, not a change you might expect, really, is it? I mean, totally get sort of leaving Henderson out because he's had fitness issues of his own this season, and you want to keep him fit for the final. But I mean, well, like we said, there is just no one else you can put in there, is there? I mean, Lallana wasn't quite back at full fitness. Chan wasn't quite back at full fitness and is still a wanker. And, you know, you don't want to be putting someone like Curtis Jones or Rafa Camacho in for a debut against, you know, what at this point are our main rivals. So, yeah, I guess it was the only thing we could do other than stick Woodburn in. But you'd kind of bank on Klein over Woodburn, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was a tough one, you know, and I mean the whole game was pretty lackluster anyway, but we definitely looked tired. We looked like, you know, we'd had a heavy night the Wednesday night and we hadn't quite recovered. As you say, we were against a team who were chasing us down for that fourth spot, and it was starting to get very nervy. You know, we'd lost Man United with a couple of results that we'd had at the end of last month that were poor. Spurs seemed to hit form at the right moment for them to almost guarantee that third place, so we were trying to fend Chelsea off a fourth, and Chelsea had a good run in, so a good result here, and we were really starting to feel the pressure. So
yeah, feeling the pressure and just feeling the tiredness. This was our 54th game of the season. Yeah, and we played like it, really, didn't we?
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, Chelsea knew what they needed to do. And they didn't play brilliantly. They, you know, neither team were very inspired, but unfortunately, a combination of Trent in midfield who let players go and generally wasn't great at all in this game, and Dejan Lovren as well, losing Olivier Giroud, who headed in a cross on Victor Moses, former player of ours, remarkably, and heads in. I mean, we can admit this pretty much the only goal of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stand Victor Moses, actually. He does my head in.
Pourquoi?
Because he was rubbish for us. He was absolute pish. And he's turned... Suddenly he's like... I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get how people can be so... sort of... think he's so good. When he was... Either he was really bad for us and he is really good for Chelsea, which annoys me. Because why didn't he do it for us? Or he's the most overrated player in Premier League.
I mean, there's a lot of competition for that place.
Well, there is. And I mean, the entire Man United squad, for one thing. But I mean, he was nominated for BBC African Footballer of the Year. Do you mean? He was up there with sort of Mo Salah. He was, you know, a direct opponent for Mo Salah for the title of BBC African Footballer of the Year, and he's not even in the same league. Do you know what I mean? I know he is.
Ironically, he's in the same league.
But metaphorically speaking, like, I don't understand how he can be. How anyone can think he's that good. I mean, he's not. I don't even think he has been that good this season, and he's just. And he was pretty rubbish for us. And I'm just, yeah. And like you say, of course, it would be him that gives the assist for Giroud to get the winner against us. It's just typical, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And sadly, there's not really a lot else to talk about in this game. It was a real non-event. You know, Chelsea just sat back and just did what they did. You know, didn't really allow us anything. We created very little. You know, even trying to bring on Hendo, Solanke, you know, midway through the second half, didn't do a whole lot to help. It was a very disappointing and potentially could have been very costly hit to our Champions League hopes for next season.
Yeah, I mean, it was still just about in our hands. If we beat Brighton on the final day of the season, we'd qualify for Champions League. It was unless there was some ridiculous like act of, you know, free scoring massacre, and Chelsea won like 15-0 or something.
Well, actually, can I? I'll actually add a caveat to that. That's not at the end of this game. That wasn't quite how the situation lay. It was only thanks to one Mr. David Wagner, who managed to get a draw away at Chelsea with his Huddersfield side, both keeping them up and then putting us in the position you just described.
Oh, of course, yes, I forgot that hadn't happened yet. Yeah,
that was a midweek game that had been postponed.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, well, as you just very eloquently put, I was wrong.
You were right, just when it came to the final game of the season. And of course, well done to Huddersfield. We are very glad to see them again in the league next year.
Yeah, a remarkable achievement. And actually, I think the most remarkable part of it is that I'm not overly surprised. Everyone was banging on about how this is the best achievement by any team in the history of Premier League for Huddersfield to stay up. And I think it's probably the best compliment that I can pay them. But I just thought, all right, let's not go over the top here. Like, they deserve to stay up. Like, it's not like a great escape. Do you know what I mean? They genuinely didn't look that under threat, and that was partly helped by the fact that they had 3 quite established Premier League teams underneath them all playing hopelessly in Swansea, West Brom, and Stoke, and arguably Southampton. But yeah, I mean, it's a great result for them. I'm just quite surprised that everyone's so surprised, which is a nice compliment to pay Huddersfield.
Exactly.
Anyway, yes. Disappointing result, wasn't it? Chelsea won, but like you say, there were definitely options still, especially after Huddersfield did us a massive favour against Chelsea.
Yeah, we knew that this going to the last game of the season at home to Brighton, we knew a win would be enough, no matter what. Chelsea were away at St James's Park, so again another friend a friend of Liverpool in Rafa could do us another solid and do another get a good result against Chelsea, and that would basically help us out again. But really, it was in our own hands, and we were playing a Brighton side who, again, like Huddersfield, very good, stayed up comfortably, very impressive, and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've blown enough smoke up Huddersfield's arse that we should say, yeah. I mean, equally fantastic achievement by Brighton. They're not a rich club either. They're not, they're what you would probably, with respect, call a small club, even at a championship level. If you look at some of the big guns in the championship over the last few years, like Aston Villa, Sunderland, etc. Yeah, I mean, an amazing result, really. And again, Chris Hughton, what a brilliant manager.
Yeah, hugely underrated as well.
Hugely underrated. Great manager, and I think by all accounts a really nice chap as well. Like, he's always just seems a very decent and sort of respectful, friendly bloke.
Doing it for the BAME community as well, which we always support.
Yes, and yeah, absolutely. But enough about Brighton and Huddersfield, because this isn't the plastic Northerners or plastic
Seagulls.
Seagulls. Plastic Seagulls podcast would be fun, though.
I would love to do a Plastic Seagulls podcast. I don't know how it would work.
I know next to nothing about Brighton and Hove Albion.
We'll go on a day trip.
Yeah, I know how they got their nickname, actually. This is an interesting story. Do you want to know this?
Is it because they live in Brighton where seagulls are?
Well, you'd think so. But actually, their nickname was originally the Dolphins. And you know how they have this slightly inexplicable rivalry with Crystal Palace?
Yes, they do. Like the what is it? There's that motorway that connects them.
Yeah, is it the M23?
That sounds about right. I can't quite remember, but yeah, because I've got a friend. My colleague works. My colleague is a Brighton fan, and he was saying about it. I was like, it doesn't make any sense. You're so far away from each other.
I know, it's bizarre, but then I guess there's not many other. Unless they want to form a rivalry with Whitehawk, there's not many options for them. But they were
Havant Waterlooville, maybe.
Yeah, or like Hastings Town or something. But yeah, so they were nicknamed the Dolphins, and they had a game against Crystal Palace, who of course the Eagles. All the Crystal Palace fans were like, Eagles, 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 and so it was a kind of tongue-in-cheek response. Based on their seaside location, the Brighton fans started chanting "Seagulls, Seagulls, Seagulls," and it sort of stuck, and it became a much sort of more apt nickname than the Dolphins, because you don't really get many dolphins in Brighton, whereas you get shitloads of seagulls, and it became their nickname.
That's brilliant.
So there we go. That's all I know about Brighton and Hove Albion.
Fantastic. Yes, let's talk about the game.
Yes, let's do it.
Pretty much our strongest lineup. The same No, not in fact the same one. It was an interesting one actually because there was a notable absentee in midfield in James Milner, who wasn't in the squad. I don't know if he picked up a slight injury or something. I think that might have done.
Yeah, I think he was it was either a minor twinge or an illness.
Something like that, yeah.
But it's a real shame because this is the first matchday squad of the season that he's not been part of.
And it's the penultimate. Well, it's the last game of the Premier League season. Incredible, really.
Yeah. He's. I mean, that would have been a lovely record to have, but he didn't. I suppose it was always going to catch up with him at one point. So we saw returning to the matchday squad Adam Lallana on the bench instead.
Well, we did, but in his place in the squad was not a midfielder, but another striker in Dom Solanke.
Oh, of course, yeah, a real. I mean, partly, we needed to win to qualify for Champions League, so a good, bold, attacking lineup.
4-2-4. It was absolutely crazy, really.
And partly the fact we don't have any midfielders. So yeah, it was your standard defence with Gini and Pendo in the middle. And then, the Fab Three and Solanke.
Yeah, very bold, just going for it. I mean, it's good. We had to go for it. There was no reason not to.
No, and Brighton, because of their, aforementioned success this season, didn't have anything to play for. So it was kind of a dead rubber from their point of view. So we might as well just throw everything at them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it worked because this was a destructive performance, really.
It was a really good performance, especially coming off the back of the Chelsea result, which was very undestructive.
I mean, we were right from the word go. We were right at it. We should have had at least one, if not two, penalties for blatantly poor decisions. This was the first 25 minutes. I mean, it got to the stage where I was just sitting there thinking, this is laughable. You fit, how on earth have we not had a penalty for some of the tackles that were going in, particularly Del Stevens on, I think it was Salah. I think absolutely clattered to the back of him, nothing given, and then, I think there's one where somebody slid in on Salah, clearly took him out, no with the ball, and nothing was given, and I just thought, we're never going to get a penalty ever again, are we? And we're going to have them constantly given against us for nothing. It has been, genuinely, I can't think of a season where so many bad decisions, particularly on penalties, have gone against us.
Yeah, this is probably... I mean, we seem to get them quite a lot. Most seasons, but... this does seem to have been a particularly bad one, doesn't it?
It got to the stage where I thought it was just a joke. But anyway, fortunately, it did happen for us on the 26th minute, and with it, a record I thought might never ever be broken was.
Yes, at long bloody last. Mo Salah's 32nd Premier League goal of the season. He seemed to be stuck on 31 for ages, didn't he?
Yeah, and I thought it was cursed. I thought that whole thing, because Suarez couldn't do it. And before that, I think there's a couple of other players who've done it and couldn't get over that line to win it outright. And then Salah was stuck on 31 for 4 games, and I just thought he's never going to score again, is he?
I mean, it's still not the. I mean, it's the outright record Premier League goals for a 38-game season. If you go back to when Premier League was 42 games a year, it was the record was 34 goals. So, and I really thought he might. A couple of weeks ago, I thought he'd probably do it and get the outright record, so we wouldn't have to keep saying for a 38-game season every time we talk about it. We could just say for most Premier League goals in a season ever. But he didn't. But luckily, like you say, then it seemed like he wasn't even going to break that one outright, and we'd have to start saying, the record for most goals in Premier League season, while there's been 38 games instead of 42, shared with 2 other players who also got the same amount of and it becomes a much less enjoyable stat. But he finally bloody did it. I think it was Alan Shearer in 95-96, Cristiano Ronaldo, whoever he is, no, I don't remember him, 2007-2008, and our own Chewy Suarez in 13-14.
Lovely.
So thank fuck for that. And well done to Mo Salah. What a debut season that is.
Just way beyond anything any of us could have expected. just incredible. And it's a great turn and finish as well into the bottom corner, and you can see what it meant to him. Like, of late he's been celebrating very calmly and with sort of like, look at me, you're not entertained. But this time, fist in the air, absolute relief on his face. I think not just at the breaking the record, but at what it meant to the context of the season.
Yeah. And I mean, you would have bet on him having a few more. With that sort of monkey off his back, you'd have bet on him having a couple more this game. And in fact, a lot of the players seem to be desperate for him to, as they have been for a few games actually, in scenes reminiscent of the 4-0 friendly victory over Everton a couple of years. Sorry, did I say friendly victory? Premier League encounter against Everton at the end of the Roberto Martinez era. Do you remember when everyone was just passing it to Lucas to get him to score? Yeah,
and he shanked one like 10 yards towards the corner flag.
Yeah, but it was just like, for a while everyone just seemed to be, you get in the box and you just give it to Mo Salah. And there was one time when Mane was basically throwing goal, it was a sort of tap-in, and rather than just blast it into the net, he sort of slotted it back to Mo Salah, managed to kind of completely fluff that, allow the keeper to have it. The keeper managed to kind of give it back to Salah himself, and then it was cleared off the line anyway. But
yeah, Mane's decision making has been a bit poor at times throughout this season. But he did. Yeah, everyone's trying to feed Salah. To be fair, it wasn't just that. We wanted the second goal just to ease the tension. At 1-0, you never know what's going to happen. Despite Brighton not really threatening, 5 minutes before half time, that second goal does come from an unlikely source.
Yeah, a hell of a goal. Who was it put for crossing?
Andy Robertson.
Andy Robertson, of course, brilliant player. Cross comes in. Dalen Lovren just gets up, an absolute a proper header. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad to see Wijnaldum score against Roma, but you'd argue it was a sort of, it was a bounced header rather than a proper force behind it. Whereas this was sort of neck back, bang, powers into the net. Absolutely stunning goal. And just for sort of sheer, well, like you say, unlikeliness of it and just the force of it. And he went, ran over to fans and copied Mo Salah's celebration. So.
He did. And interesting fact for you there, that is his first goal for us in the Premier League at home.
That is a good fact. And his first goal for us surely not since the Dortmund game, is it?
No, he scored away at Bournemouth, I think. Was that the last one?
Yes, must have been. I think it was. Yeah.
So, half-time 2-0, and whilst we don't feel super comfortable, the way that Brighton hadn't really threatened and didn't need to, coupled with the fact that, by the way, at half-time Chelsea were losing at St James's Park, and things were looking pretty good.
It was, and it was a bit like the Middlesbrough game of last season, really, where, the whole atmosphere just kind of lifts and the tension is punctured, and you just feel... you just feel a lot lighter and happier, and it's just turning into a really nice afternoon.
It was a sunny afternoon in Liverpool. It was lovely.
It was, yeah. And so then it got even better in the second half, didn't it?
It did. We decided to start breaking some ducks, like some aquatic assassin, and.
Quite a savage aquatic assassin as well. If he just breaks them, do you know what I mean?
Breaks those ducks, yeah.
Killing a duck is bad enough, but breaking it implies some sort of really feral, hand-to-hand combat. Do you know what I mean? Or hand-to-wing.
There is a visceral nature to it, isn't there?
There isn't there? Just like snapping a duck in half. Do you know what I mean?
Ripping and tearing it. I don't know why.
Yeah, real kind of, rudimentary warfare.
On this month's podcast, we discuss savaging ducks. Dominic Solanke scores his first Liverpool goal on the last Premier League game of the season. Finally does it.
At last. It was a real game for getting at last moments, wasn't it? Qualification for Champions League basically in the bag. Mo Salah getting the golden boot and the all-time record in the 38-game season, and then Dominic Solanke finally bloody scoring. It was just like a real kind of exhalation of a game, wasn't it?
It's a rocket as well. The finish is great.
It was, and we should probably give a mention to the assist which came from
Mo Salah.
Mo Salah, It was really just sort of. I mean, he was just running in a goal and put it in front of him, and Solanke picked it up, really, wasn't it? It was a fairly standard assist. But
yeah, it's a good play, but into Solanke's path, and he slams it into the roof of the net. I mean,
absolutely bangs it.
It's not the finish from someone who's struggling for confidence.
No, it's a finish of someone who's finally got it. Do you know what I mean? And like I was saying about the atmosphere lifting, that seemed to really, include Solanke. He seemed to really thrive off that kind of caution-free, just kind of relaxed atmosphere, and he does something like that. So it's just a shame that he's been waiting for the confidence of his first goal all season, and he gets it in a game where he won't play again now for about 3 months. Do you know what I mean? So he's basically got to start again. But it was great to see, just from a sort of not even what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Like a personal perspective. Do you know what I mean? Like a kind of. It's just nice. It's always nice to see a player get their first goal for the club.
With that at 3-0 as well, it was, with Chelsea, I think we're 3-0 down at St James's Park, and what was another, fantastic result. And thanks Rafa as well, another one we can owe him for. It was over by this stage, and we knew it, and so the rest of the game was just a bit of a jolly, really.
It was a bit of a jolly, but there was time for one more especially jolly moment.
Yes. Well, there's a couple actually, because Lana got 15 minutes.
Oh yes, that's true.
Lana got 15 minutes on the pitch, came on for Mane, just to get him a bit of a run out, knowing what we had ahead of us in a couple of weeks' time. We need to get him some minutes. Danny Ings, maybe his last appearance for us, we don't know. It's not, who knows, but gets on a 5-minute run out, nice to see him. And, I mean, Ben Woodburn finally got on the pitch for the first time. I can't remember when he last played.
Well, his last game at all was the League Cup defeat by Leicester. His last game in the league was the 2-1 win against Stoke over a year before, at the end of last season, if you remember that.
So he hasn't actually appeared in his Liverpool shirt at all since Leicester?
No.
What about for Wales?
Oh yeah, he's played a couple of times for Wales, I think.
I think that's he's more recently appeared for Wales on a couple of occasions.
The thing is, he's not even been appearing in the youth teams much. He's only played like a handful of games in the under-23s because he's been training a lot and travelling fairly often with the senior squad, but not playing. A bit like Danny Ward, he's kind of had, the benefit of Klopp's expertise and all in training, without any of the actual real benefit of game time, which you can't quite make your mind up if that's progress or not for him. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's a difficult. I mean, I'd like to have seen him gone out, and even just for the second half of the season, I'd like to see him gone out on loan. But there we go. Yeah,
but then, I mean, in a way, I guess we didn't have any cover as it is. So if we hadn't had Woodburn these last couple of games, we would have been seeing like Curtis Jones on the bench in Champions League semi-finals.
Yeah, that's true.
Which would just be mental.
But as you know, with him coming on, it was less than a minute before another duck was broken, and we were all utterly delighted when we saw who scored this.
Oh my God, Andy Robertson, probably it's so hard to say standout performer of the season, and you can't even say signing of the season, but you can say the bargain of the season. But again, even like Mo Salah was a bargain for the price we paid. It's probably about less than £1 million a goal. But yeah, I mean, what a debut season this lad has had. Especially given that he didn't even really become a regular until about December. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. Probably our best left back for years. It is only a matter of time now before he gets, an injury that will put him out for about 18 months and he'll never be the same player again.
Almost guaranteed when we give him the number 3 shirt this summer.
Almost guaranteed. And yeah, but he got the goal we'd all been waiting for. Probably less so than Solanke, because Solanke's a striker. But he was one of only 3 players that hadn't scored at the start of this game, and now there's only one. That's who is it, Matt?
Loris Karius.
Joe Gomez. I should have stipulated not including keepers.
Right.
But yeah, so Joe Gomez is the only first team regular that's never scored for us now. I mean, it was a great goal. ironically, a bit of a poacher's goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's fallen to him after a poor clearance from a cross, and he's just sort of volleyed it in.
Yeah, just smashes it in. Really quite weird, actually, because it was a cross was from Danny Ings, who is what you would call your classic kind of 6-yard box poacher. And Andy Robertson's normally the one storming up the left and pinging crosses in. I'm not quite sure how their positions got swapped at this moment.
Well, that's how Jurgen likes to play.
Well, yeah, but I'm not quite sure how Andy Robertson found himself on the edge of a 6-yard box with Danny Ings coursing up the wing. But I'm glad it happened. And yeah, just a lovely way to round off a frustrating at times, incredibly exhilarating at times. He's relatively successful Premier League season.
I mean, we're in the Champions League next year, and we don't have to qualify because of rule changes, which mean that we get a guaranteed top 4 get guaranteed into the group stage. So no qualification next year round.
No, which is a shame because I will miss the opportunity to travel to Astana or Bati Borisov or all the other teams that invariably Hoffenheim
in our case.
Or Hoffenheim, all the other teams that aren't going to actually make the group stage but liven up the early bits. But it's inarguably a great result. Sort of our first automatic qualification for the group stage of Champions League in God knows how long.
Fantastic.
In 9 years?
Well, since 13-14.
Oh, of course, yeah. I forgot about that.
It's all right. Absolutely fine. So, great. All round, say Premier League season was whilst frustrating at times, and we should have definitely had a few more points. There are extenuating circumstances with the European run that we suddenly found ourselves having, and I mean, on this day, Man City were the first team to get 100 points ever in the top flight in any iteration of it. So
Is that true?
Yes, no one has ever got triple figures in the top flight of any English football league ever.
Oh, I thought Man United did it a few years ago.
Nope, never ever happened before. They are the first team to ever do it. So I mean, when you're trying to compete against that, you sort of have to just say, okay, we weren't going to win the league this year.
Yeah. It's just boring bastards, aren't they?
Scoring like the most goals in a Premier League season ever as well. Oh God.
Well, they're just we won't talk about.
Yeah, you can't you just have. I think you have to put your hands up and say fair enough.
Yeah, no, but they deserve to win. Although I don't necessarily think they were as good as they were made out to be in some quarters of the press, in that they had a lot of games where they'd score in the last minute. They just scraped 1-0s here and there. Obviously, everyone will remember the free-flowing attacking performances, but they won't remember the games where they were really struggling and just sort of got a lucky bounce in the sort of 85th minute. But
that's what good teams do.
Well, I suppose, yes.
There's only one manager who has their number, and it happens to be managing us. So
I think we scored something like 20% of all the goals they conceded.
I told you, Jurgen's got his number. It's the one manager he can't get his head round.
Well, let's hope he continues that record into next season.
Well, but let's hope. I'd like to avoid Man City if I can, but let's talk about next season after we talk about what happened next.
Oh, I don't want to.
Oh, and we have to. There is no. Consider this your therapy. Consider this your time to vent, frustrate, whatever you need to get out. Do it now, because you can get this like some sort of. I don't know how to describe it, but you can put them in a box and then you can just push them away and you never have to think about them again. This is the time. It is the Champions League final. We are taking on Real Madrid. Real Madrid, who have won the previous 2 Champions League finals and are the most seasoned veteran pros of this competition the world has probably ever seen. And as you can probably tell, it wasn't a positive outcome, despite the fact we were in the final for the first time since 2007, despite the fact we never, in our wildest dreams, expected this to happen. Unfortunately, it was a nightmare from start to finish.
Well, yeah, it was not quite from start to finish. It was a nightmare from sort of half an hour in to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was so much hope, Matt. That's what got me. It's the hope.
And I think it's not just the hope, because to lose but have played well and just been unlucky. Well, there's three ways of looking at it. There's the way where you lose and you don't play well, and you just have to accept that you didn't perform well on the day and you were just beaten by a better team. There's the one where you feel unlucky because you play better than them, and you sort of think, okay, well, this is really unfair and unjust, but hey, that's the way it goes. And then there's the cruel and unjust way this happened.
Yeah. I think it wasn't just for hope, actually. It wasn't for hope, it was for belief this time around. There was a real palpable sense that we almost went in as favourites. You know what I mean? Real Madrid had been quite lucky throughout the season. They got to the final through various flukes and half chances and strokes of luck that we hadn't relied on. We'd actually got to the final through fair means of a brave, bold attacking performances. No one could dispute the fact that we deserved our place in that final. Whereas you could dispute Real Madrid's involvement and whether they deserved to be there. And so there arose out of that a sense that we might be the better team, that we were probably in with a better shout. But this was our year. Our name was on the cup, and oh my god, it wasn't like that at all.
It wasn't. I mean, an interesting fact for you there: every single outfield player for our team has scored for us this season after Robertson's goal. So there's a little interesting starting point. But it was the 11 you'd expect: Karius in goal, Van Dijk and Lovren in the back two, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold on the wings. As a fullback, Wijnaldum, Milner and Hendo in midfield, with Firmino, Salah and Mane the front three. And yeah, you said for the first 30 minutes we were the better team. I actually think we didn't look threatened. We didn't create a whole lot, but we looked more dangerous. And I think, I thought if the game carries on like this, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a bit like the Man City game, in that we kind of held out for half an hour and kind of weathered the initial storm, settled into our groove, started to look quite sharp. And I thought, there would come a 10-minute period where we sort of wound up, and then bang, start going, and just have like 10-15 minutes where we just tear them apart and then sit back and wind it down again. But it just didn't happen. It just...
Well, no, and there's one particular reason why, and there's one particular man who is to blame for it.
Yeah, the reason why is that Sergio Ramos is a prick.
Well, he's a man to blame. The reason why is because he fouled Salah, and did we ever find out what happened? Did he dislocate his shoulder?
Yeah, he dislocated his shoulder. It's weird. It's not even the one that Ramos was like pulling on. It's just that when he pulled him to the ground, how he landed. I'm really struggling to talk about it.
That's fine. I can. I've unlike Owen, who's still trying to get through this. I feel like I've had my moment now. Ramos fouls. I mean, it's not necessarily the foul that's the biggest issue for me, because he brings him down. He's clearly just trying to bring him down. The fact that Salah's got injured, I don't necessarily think that Ramos was trying to do that. If he was trying to get him injured, he'd have done it a different way. But Salah, unfortunately, despite the fact he tries to carry on, he can't. He's got a dislocated shoulder and he has to come off the pitch. And he comes off the pitch in tears, and along with most Liverpool fans, thinks we're doomed, because he, talisman, our best player. And then cut to a shot of Sergio Ramos laughing and smiling about it. At which point, you just think what a disgusting human being he is.
Prick.
But unfortunately, we then looked in trouble because we didn't have anyone to really come on and replace him. Lallana came on, he wasn't match fit. He wasn't ready, really.
No.
I am slightly surprised it was Lallana, because we had Moreno on the bench to play out there, who at least he had more game time. Solanke could have come on, which wouldn't have been ideal, but at least he's played a lot and he just scored.
Arguably Solanke was probably our best choice. You've got the experience of Lallana, the pace of Moreno, or the actual correct positioning of Solanke, and Klopp went. This is an hour still to play in a Champions League fight, in the biggest game of the season. So you can understand why he went for the experience, but replacing a player with the ferocious pace and dynamism of Salah with, someone who's not got quite that when he's match fit, and he wasn't fully fit, is I mean, yeah, it's just a perfect. And I thought we had quite a good squad this season. Do you know what I mean? I thought we had quite a lot of squad depth. But you look at, if you had to imagine that situation, and unfortunately we didn't have to imagine it, you think, who could you possibly have? If you had to take Salah off, injured, your talisman, who could you possibly replace him with that wasn't such an obvious golfing quality, or just, that wasn't an immediate boost for the opposition? And we don't have anyone like that.
No.
Now, once you factor out our first 11, we have very few players that aren't either an obvious step down in quality or an obvious kind of confidence boost to the opposition. I think the only position, or the only two positions, would be goalkeeper, because our number one isn't particularly promising, and so you would argue it's not a massive step down to replace him off the bench, or fullback.
Yeah, certainly now.
With Andrew Klein, yeah. If you lost either Alexander Arnold or Gomez and you saw Klein coming on, you would think, okay, that's a really good, backup, or vice versa. If you, like this season, if we didn't have Klein, you'd look at Gomez and Trent Alexander-Arnold and think, it's okay, we're in safe hands. But there's very few positions really in the team now where we can say, oh, it's fine, we can afford to lose them.
Yeah, I think particularly in the key forward positions, you are right. And if you look at, what Real Madrid had on their bench, Bale, Asensio, Kovacic and Vazquez, I mean, that's the level we're competing with here.
Well, yeah, they had the opportunity to bring on Gareth Bale. We had the opportunity to bring on Dominic Solanke.
There we go. But hey, that's what happens when you have a lot of money. So, even more money than we have. But the thing is, we went in half-time with this game 0-0. And, I mean, after Salah had gone off, it was a case of they were the better team. And, Karius had to pull out a couple of saves. But there was still hope at 0-0.
There was, yeah. I mean, there's always hope at, if we kind of get to half-time and maybe regroup and... Well, I would say make a couple of changes, but we've got no one to bring on really that would kind of improve the game.
Maybe tactically just rejig it a bit.
Yeah, and just kind of... Because obviously Salah going off is going to have a big detriment confidence-wise and tactically, yeah, you're right. And so just the opportunity for Klopp to speak to his 11 without, Salah in the team and, maybe change the game plan slightly. So, going into half-time wasn't a disaster. It was just what happened pretty immediately after half-time that was a disaster.
The second half comes and, boy, it's one we'll never forget for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, God.
And it starts just after half-time, and it's that prick again. Sergio Ramos, which none of us really spotted what happened until after the fact. So a free kick comes in from from our right, their left-hand side. And it sort of flung in, and I don't think anyone really gets to it. And, there's a bunch of sort of people fall over in the box and that kind of thing, and it goes out of play. But quietly and very subtly, just out of earshot of the referee, so to speak. Well, there's no other way to put it. Sergio Ramos elbows Karius in the face.
Yeah, completely unprovoked. Skillfully enough done to make it look like it was probably an accident. But what a prick.
And the thing is, he completely got away with it, both at the time and in retrospect. So I mean, it's almost when you get away with stuff like that, you almost think, what's the point of even trying?
Yeah.
Because this is for some reason Real Madrid just get away with it, and I can see why, because we aren't the first club who had problems like this happen to us from him and from Real Madrid. No,
you're right.
It's baffling.
Like you say, they've got more money than us.
And yeah, well, I just think they're the masters of cheating, and apparently nice guys finish last, and we're the nice guys. But the thing is, when it happened, we hadn't noticed this, and certainly Loris Karius, once he sort of complained, and nothing was given, he just sort of got on with it, and then things took a very horrible turn for the worse.
Yeah, I talk us through it.
Yeah, Owen wants to get this over and done with. I mean, we can smash through this as best we can. Loris Karius gives the ball to Karim Benzema completely accidentally and throws it at his foot, and it goes in. And it's 1-0 to Real Madrid, and Karius has basically given it to him in one of the most shocking mistakes world football will ever see and ever remember seeing. It was horrific.
It's reminiscent of those ones you see from like the mid-90s where a player will be behind the goalkeeper, they won't realise. He'll like throw it down to take a to not a goal kick, but like just to kick it out from the goalkeeper. The player will suddenly run from behind him, take it off his foot, and just tap it in. Or the one where the keeper had it in his hand and the chap nodded it off and buried it, and it's down there with those. It's
except it's in a Champions League final.
Except it's a Champions League final. It's one of the worst goalkeeping mistakes in football history.
I would probably posit it's the worst goalkeeping mistake in Champions League final history. I'd probably posit that's the case. I'd like someone to please send me a better one, just to make me feel a bit better about it. Send me a worse one in the Champions League final. However, actually, a few minutes later, we pull it back to 1-1 again, and it's the best player on the pitch for us all night.
Sadio Mane.
Yeah, he was the one. When you think Salah going off, you need someone to try and step up, and Firmino didn't. He had a not absolutely ineffectual game.
He was anonymous.
On midfield, where nowhere to be seen. Where was Milner was working hard, Henderson was working hard, Wijnaldum showing nothing of the quality that he just seems to fleetingly show every so often, which is why he won't be a regular for us in the long term. But Mane really did stand up, and he was the only one who looked like he was going to threaten, and he deservedly got the goal, and what turned out to be the only goal we got in the final.
Yeah, I mean, from a particularly disengaged statistical point of view, I was glad it was Mane because it meant we had 3 different players reach double figures in the Champions League this season.
And he scored in every round as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. Shit. Did he score against Man City?
Yep. Scored the third with the header. Scored in every round, including the group stage and in the qualifying.
I mean, it's remarkable, and it's
a great fact.
Yeah, it's a really sad thing. It's a statistic that deserves success. It deserves summit format. We got 3 different players on double figures in the Champions League. That's never happened before. We got James Milner with more assists than any other player has ever got in a Champions League campaign season before. We've got someone scoring in literally every round from before the group stage happened, basically before the first round, right up to the final, and all of them left empty-handed, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and we don't have the one thing that really matters as a result of the next half an hour and the introduction of a certain Welshman. Now the second goal, the goal that makes it 2-1, is the only one I don't think we can complain about.
Well, it was a fluke. I mean, it wasn't Karius's fault, but it was a fluke.
It's no one's fault.
No.
I disagree that it was a fluke. He entirely means to do it, and it's a fantastic overhead kick.
Well, he means to. Obviously, he wants it to go in, and he means to make contact with it. But he could try that another 8 times, and it would go in maybe once. It's not the most controlled overhead kick in the world. It's not planted. It's substantial contact with the ball. It's going towards the goal. Another 6 days of a week that'll either bounce off a crossbar or go over. And it was just our luck that this was the night it dipped enough to go in. But
that's the thing. I mean, Real Madrid can bring on a player like Gareth Bale who can score an amazing overhead kick. Can we? Oh, Emre Can's on the bench. It's true. Okay, forget I said that.
Emre Can bloody comes on as well.
He does, but that's pretty much. Is that just about at the same time as the third and final goal, and Karius's nightmare is confirmed?
I can't remember if it's just before or just afterwards, actually, because I've got them down as both on 83 minutes.
So have I.
It doesn't matter, really, does it?
No,
Emre Can finishes his Liverpool career with 7 minutes of utter anonymity.
Yeah, in a Champions League final. That feels really undeserving for what he's doing.
I mean, the one possible consolation to us not winning this game is that we don't have to see Emre Can get a Champions League winners medal.
Yeah, before he sods off. Yeah, Gareth Bale hits a shot and Karius puts it into the goal. He just drops it. Laps through his hands, and it's such a cruel way to lose this final.
It is. It's after everything we've and this is exactly what I said before, innit? That Real Madrid haven't deserved the success they've had in Europe this season, whereas we have. And once again, they've got 2 goalkeeper errors and a fluke goal, and they've just won the Champions League. And people won't remember the manner of how they did it. They'll remember that they did it, and likewise, people won't remember the manner of how we did it. They'll remember that we didn't, and it's just so unjust and unfair, and we didn't deserve it. We did not deserve that to happen to us. On the back of our whole season, on the back of our European campaign, we did not deserve that result or that performance or what happened or how it happened. And what really hurts about it is that I don't think it's going to be. I don't think this is the start of something any more than it was in 2013-14 or 2008-2009. This is our first European Cup final for 11 years. These things don't come around very often, and we can't afford to have performances like this and take them for granted and just say, "Oh well, another one will come along." I was doing my GCSEs. I was in year 10 last time we were in a Champions League final. I've done my GCSEs, my AS levels, my A levels, my bloody 4 years of university degree, and I've been out of uni 4 years since. By that margin, I'll be nearly 40 by the time we next get a crack at the Champions League. You can't get you can't assume that just because we've had a good season, it'll be Champions League finals every season from now on. And there are so many players who are really deserved to win that night that hand on heart, and it pains me to say this, but I don't think they will get that chance again. And players that deserve to have, not just the Champions League, obviously they deserve to have won the Champions League, but they deserve to leave Liverpool with something, with having won something with Liverpool. Because the players we've seen leave without, like Fernando Torres, Javier Mascherano, you can probably think of those are just off to my head. Daniel Sturridge, players that Philip Coutinho, some of great Liverpool players that have not won a single thing in their Liverpool career, and they've deserved to. And we're seeing now people like James Milner, possibly Jordan Henderson, probably Dejan Lovren. Players that really do deserve to have something to show for their time at Liverpool, that have been, great servants to the club, that will leave empty-handed. Whether that's next summer after that, whenever. Players that should have had the opportunity to celebrate a trophy, to do the open top bus parade and to, raise the trophy aloft to the Liverpool fans, and haven't had that. And I don't think they'll get another chance. And that's what really upsets me about it.
No, I can totally understand. And I mean, you look at the sort of reaction at the end of the game. You expect the usual sort of tears and heads down, and everyone's down. I mean, Karius was absolutely distraught, and I mean, fair play to the guy. He goes over to the fans and just begs for forgiveness. And we were all furious and disappointed at what happened. But I mean, I commend the guy for at least having the courage to do that, because that's not, I don't know if I could.
Yeah, I mean, I fair play to him, but also, if I was a Liverpool fan that he came over to, I don't know if I could actually forgive him in that moment.
I mean, fair play to Liverpool fans; they did applaud him.
Yeah,
that shows you real respect.
Yeah, I could probably, but I'm still furious with him.
But the thing is, let's cut to the chase here. There may be more to this than we realise. So about a week and a half later, there's a doctor's thing comes out from an American doctor, who I think is the doctor that the FSG use, who had a look at Loris Karius. So I think they just do a debrief on all the players before they go away for the summer to kind of just check their medical, see if any see if any surgery needs to be done, or if there's any underlying issues that need to be looked at. And they concluded that he'd been concussed following that challenge from Sergio Ramos' challenge, elbow in the face. And Karius hadn't really been aware of it, but it had affected his peripheral vision. That was the main thing that had gone, which makes a lot of sense when you think about what the mistakes he made.
It does, but if I'm a goalkeeper playing in the Champions League final and I realise my peripheral vision's fucked, you come off.
But he didn't realise. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he must have. Did he not realise after he'd thrown it at Karim Benzema that, why didn't I see him? Is it because my peripheral vision's gone, or is he invisible? Like, if he must have been. He might not have realised before the first goal, but after that, unless you are owning up to the fact that you are an awful goalkeeper, you will think in your head, oh, there's a reason for that. That doesn't seem like something I would have normally have done. In which case, you realise you got a problem and you take yourself off. And God, even Mignolet would have done better. Do you know what I mean? Because he wasn't, even if the reason he would have done better is less to do with his quality as goalkeeper and all to do with the fact that he didn't have concussion, that is good enough for me. This is a Champions League final. I mean, I know it will hurt. I know no one wants to come off in a Champions League final, and we should point out, actually, that this is the second European game of the campaign where we've seen a player substituted in tears, if you think of Alberto Moreno against Spartak Moscow. But think back to the 2016 League Cup final. Mamadou Sakho got that knock to the head. He wanted to carry on. Jurgen Klopp took him off. He went mental. And he sat there on the bench with his bib over his head in tears. And if that's a completely natural response, you're playing in one of the biggest games in your career, you don't want to have to come off if you don't have to, but put the team first. Put the fans first. Some of them travelled for days to get to Kiev to see you bloody cock up our hopes for possibly another 11 years. Okay, you're concussed, fine, but be a bit selfless about it and say, I'm concussed, my peripheral vision's a bit dodgy, I feel a bit weird, I didn't realise there was anything wrong, but now I'm giving a ball to a player who's right in front of me that I claim not to have seen. Come on, do the obvious thing,
It's all a little bit weird and how it came out and all the rest of it. And ultimately the thing is, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change anything. So.
Well, no, that's it. It's, and this is why, if you got a concussion, come off while it can still make a difference. Don't give it a week and then say, oh yeah, concussion. Sorry about that. Okay, great, damage is done by that point. It's going to be an interesting summer, and I don't envy him having to sleep on that every night, knowing what he did. But hey, look, it's a very sour way to end what actually hasn't been a bad season overall. I know it's tough to think about that now, but there's a way in which we can actually realise how good a season it was, Owen. And that's with the thing we did right at the beginning of the season, and that was the 6-second predictions that we made, if you remember. Yes, I do remember those.
You hosted these last time, Owen. Now, have you got the notes with you by any chance?
I don't know.
No, well, luckily for you, I do. And so,
in fairness, they're on my old laptop, which is not been long for this world.
Fair enough. So I've written down the notes for the first podcast here, and so let's have a little look at what we predicted. So firstly, you asked, where do we finish in the league this season?
What did I say? Is that what you're asking? I'm probably thinking something. I probably said third.
You said fourth, which was absolutely bang on.
Oh, well, there we go.
So that's a point to you. I said fifth, so I was one off. I was slightly misjudged how good we would be this season. For top scorer, who would you have said?
I think I said Mane.
You did. We both said Mane, which unfortunately wasn't the case. So.
Not even top two.
No. Actually, surprisingly, Firmino did very well this year. What about FA Cup?
I have a feeling I might have said we'd win it.
You did say we'd win it, which was a long way off. I said semi-final, which by purely that it was slightly closer means I get the point for that one.
Both of us well out on that there.
Absolutely, yes. Our best signing?
Well, I wouldn't have said Oxlade-Chamberlain. Who else? We only signed 3 other players, didn't we? It was Salah, Robertson and Solanke. I almost certainly wouldn't have said Solanke, so I must have said Salah.
You did. We both said Salah. So no one gets the points there. I think that's fairly reasonable. League Cup.
I reckon I said semi-finals.
You did not. In fact, you were bang on. 3rd round.
Oh, really?
You were bang on. So,
Wow.
yeah.
What made me say that?
I don't know. But you did, and I said 4th round, so you get the point there. Now,
There we go.
who do you think you would have said you regretted selling?
Lucas.
Wow, well done. Why are you so sure?
Because I was thinking about this the other day, actually. Because he's had a really good season. And I thought he had a lot of life left in him, and I thought we didn't have an awful lot going on in midfield. So,
as it turned out, towards the end of the season, you were right. And I said Mamadou Sakho, who I think was injured most of last year.
Yeah. Although again, not a bad shout. But then, as Matip kind of didn't turn out to be too.
No, but then we signed Virgil van Dijk, and that kind of was a fairly ample replacement.
Yes.
So
yes, fairly ample.
Yes. So there we go. You get another point there. Champions League.
Quarterfinals.
Again, you were absolutely that's what you said. I said the round of 16. So again, you get the point there. How did you know that?
I remember saying it. I remember thinking that if we got to the quarterfinals, at the group stage, breeze through the last 16 and get a team that like Atletico or something like that we were kind of just slightly not good enough for in the quarterfinals, it would be a commendable effort.
Fair enough. Well done to you. Who would be our worst signing?
Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think I probably said, did I?
You did, and that was a tough one because none of our signings were bad this year at all, which doesn't happen very often.
I mean, Solanke was probably far and away the worst, but
no one was expecting anything of him, though. Really.
They weren't until after he did well at the under-20 World Cup.
Yeah. But that seems harsh to call him a bad signing.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's a bad signing, but he's a worse signing than Salah, Robertson and Oxlade-Chamberlain.
That's very true, yes.
I
said Robertson as it goes, so you definitely... I think Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's been a great signing, and that injury was very unfortunate towards the end of the season.
It was, and that might, who knows, that might have changed how it ended.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. So anyway, I'll give you the point for that one as well, which means you've already won. You're 5-1 ahead. But I think I'm going to win this one. Who will we regret not selling?
Oh, man, that's interesting. I can't think who I might have said for this.
They're still at the club, so...
Well, yeah, obviously, because we didn't sell them. Let me just go through the squad and think.
Yeah, we've not sold them or loaned them out in January either.
Was it Karius?
No, it was Alberto Moreno.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which is
that makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, when you consider our left back situation, maybe I think we could have. It was good that we kept him.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really good start to the season. I mean, Robertson's extravagant form in the last 6 months, is unquestionable. But it means people have forgotten that actually there's a reason that half the reason Robertson didn't have that form at the start of the season was because Moreno was keeping him out the side, and although it was annoying that we didn't get to see Robertson, and I remember saying, why sign him if we're not going to play him? Moreno was playing well.
Meanwhile, I said Lazar Markovic, so yeah.
I tell you what, though, my mind has changed on that, and it's Emery Chan.
Maybe I think you might be right now. Yeah, that's
in that if we'd sold him last season, we'd even for like 2 bob, we'd have got 2 bob for him.
Yeah.
Whereas now he's just walking away and we're getting nothing. I don't mind him leaving. I mean, him, he can go somewhere else. I don't mind that. It's the fact that we're not getting anything for him that really hurts.
Bit gutting, isn't it? Really, but hey, again, nothing we can really do. So I'll have a point for Markovic, I think, which leaves us with who will be our number 1 keeper as of this moment. Who do you think you would have said?
Danny Ward, Matt. I'd have said Danny Ward.
You didn't.
Oh, didn't I?
You said Simon Mignolet.
Oh, fair enough.
And so did I.
I should have said Danny Ward. We'd have been a lot better. If we'd had Danny Ward in from the beginning, we'd be Champions League winners by now.
We may very well have been, but we'll never know.
No, definitely would have been.
But that was our beginning of the season predictions. Quite interesting to see where our heads were at that stage.
Yeah, Largely, I think we're not in too much disagreement now. Do you know what I mean?
No, very true. And there's a couple of interesting ones there, but yeah, I think you were more accurate, so you win that. Well done.
Thank you very much. That's made me feel slightly better.
Exactly. And there's actually one more thing to make you feel slightly better after the disappointment that was the Champions League final, and it happened right at the end of May, and it caught everyone completely by surprise.
Yeah, it was the signing of Fabinho, wasn't it?
There were no rumours about this. Like, absolutely, it just suddenly happened.
Yeah, there were so few rumours. I didn't know anything about him really, other than that he was Brazilian, and that was all I knew.
He's a defensive midfielder at Monaco. Can also play at fullback, but has been converted into a defensive midfielder. Highly rated. I think Man United were after him for a long while. And I think he comes in and immediately his position is ready for him, because we haven't really had a proper holding midfielder for a number of years.
No, I guess Hendo's sort of the closest we've had, really, isn't it?
He's not a natural player in that position in the way that this guy looks like. I think it's a great signing. It was a great sort of slight way to distract from what had happened, but also kind of a little positive note to add to the end of the season. So,
yeah, can I? There's two other things I wanted to mention actually before we move on from the end of the season. Particularly, it was more of a second leg of the semi-final. I forgot to say at the time, but I feel it deserve mention. And they both concern Sean Cox, who I think we touched upon in the last podcast, was a Liverpool fan who was gravely injured in the unprovoked attack before the home leg. And two lovely gestures happened in relation to that attack. Obviously, dreadful thing to happen, and I think everyone connected with the club wishes it hadn't. But when they were training before the second leg, Roma's players, the same players who had visited the Hillsborough Memorial at Anfield just before the home leg, they trained in specially printed T-shirts with a message of support for Sean Cox, which I thought was a really commendable gesture, which we should highlight. And also after the game, when understandably the entire squad and coaching staff were on the pitch in front of Liverpool fans celebrating and clapping along to LA, 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 Henderson basically underlined his status as Liverpool captain and how it's about so much more than just what you're capable of on the field. And instead of getting caught up in celebrations, he took it upon himself to go over to a steward, organised for one of the banners to be handed over from the fans to the players, and they posed for a photo on pitch with this banner which said, Sean Cox, you'll never walk alone. And in such an ecstatic moment, when there's so many distractions and so many other jubilant things to think about, for him to have that level of level-headedness and foresight and just a wider understanding of what really matters, I think it's just such a fantastic gesture and such a fantastic role model behaviour from our captain, and I just couldn't. I really wanted to give it a mention. Good,
well done. I had forgotten, but thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
So yes, and that was the 2017-18 season. It's already gone. Where's the time gone?
Where does the time go?
This is the third year we've done this.
Does that mean we get? Yeah.
It's ridiculous how much, the amount of content we've created that no one's listened to is wonderful. And that content will continue.
Absolutely.
We're going to finish our Despicable 11. This is going to be another sad little moment for us. We have spent the last 10 podcasts putting together a list to celebrate 25 years of the Premier League that has just passed, by putting together the 11 worst players ever to play for us in that time. One for each position in a sort of typical 4-4-2 formation. And we are on to the last number 11, the left wing position traditionally. 1 through 10 is done. Shall we go through them, Owen?
Yes, let's take in turns, shall we?
Shall we? So at number 1, he's a player who is somehow still at the club, in Adam Bogdan.
Number 2, which is the right back position, was...
He's made of glass, Owen.
Philip Dagan, of course it was. For some reason I thought he was in the centre-back's position. I'm not sure why.
But he was your favourite worst player ever. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I love him.
At number 3, he hates Scousers, but not such as his mum. It's Paul Konchesky.
The Cockney, see you next Tuesday himself. Yeah. Centre-back was the ex-Southampton manager Mauricio Pellegrino, and the man with the best chant in Liverpool history, Torben Peachnik.
Indeed, at numbers 5 and 6, because of course number 4, traditionally a defensive midfield position, has been held by the man who is not Eric Cantona. He is Istvan Kozma.
Very different. Where does that leave us? Sorry.
Number 7, we're on the right now.
Number right was... Bloody hell, who was that?
He's the ball boy.
Oh, of course, Antonio Nunes.
Nunes the ball boy. At number 8, in a typically more attacking central midfield position, is a man that we have no nickname for. He's just Toad in the hole Joe Cole.
I mean, that's a good attempt at nickname. Toad in the hole Joe Cole.
Yeah.
Number 9, number 9 was the centre forward, and it will come to me. Don't say it.
It rhymes with what you just said.
It will come to me.
Come to me. He's got a video game.
Oh yeah, Sean Dundee.
Sean Dundee, the worst, probably the worst player ever to play for us in the Premier League. Sean Dundee.
Yeah, no, I was put off by. I was distracted by the rhyming thing. Like, what rhyme? Come to me.
Come to me, Sean Dundee.
I was thinking like, Debrusissimi, yeah, but yeah, Sean Dundee.
Yeah, and number 10, generally a prick, El Hadji Diouf.
Generally and specifically a prick.
El Hadji Diouf.
El Hadji Diouf. Which just leaves us out on the left.
The far left, an area I know you know well, Owen, of course.
Well, hey, yes, indeed. Because being a Liverpool fan, I just don't get enough devastating defeats in my life, so I thought I'd join the Labour Party.
There we go. So we're going to fall into the left midfield position. As we said, this is basically the one position we have left where, if you haven't heard a player that you thought might be in this general feature, they're probably here now. So
yes. And I think it's a position actually where I think for the last 3 months I've nominated someone who's going to come up this month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, either in the show or edited out at some point you have.
Yeah.
So,
I just, I think everyone should be on the left, Matt. What can I say?
I see why. Give us one of those names.
Well, my first one has got to be Usama Asaidi.
Yes.
Who I've definitely mentioned before now, which is ironic because he is probably one of the most forgettable Liverpool players in recent years. If we count the modern era, as from the takeover of Fenway Sports Group onwards, he probably is the most forgettable player we have had in that time. I wouldn't say he was the worst overall because he's been sharing a picture with people like Aspas, but he's just he came out of nowhere. No, there was no rumours about us signing him. No one expected him to sign. The first we heard of it was when it was announced he'd signed a deal. So let's hope that's not a kind of harbinger of how things will pan out with Fabinho, because a similar thing happened there. But yeah, we bought him for about 2.4 million from Heerenveen, which even 5-6 years ago seems remarkably cheap. And we probably should have guessed something from that. Now, it was over a month before he made his debut, which was against Young Boys in one of my favourite matches of recent years, as I think I've mentioned before in this podcast. He didn't do a lot. In fact, he did bugger all. He made 4 league appearances. He got an assist once in the win against West Brom in the League Cup, which was notable for being Jerome Sinclair's debut. He only played 12 times for us, did remarkably little. In fact, he's a bit like, because we mentioned Fabio Borini in this podcast before, didn't we? And we said one of Fabio Borini's greatest moments as a Liverpool player happened while he was on loan at Sunderland, which is when he scored the winner against Chelsea in the sort of run-in that we thought at the time had basically set us up for the Premier League title that year. And of course it didn't. But also on loan in that season in 13-14 was Asaidi. So basically everyone Rodgers bought in his first summer, he then loaned out immediately the next year. Asaidi was at Stoke, and he also scored the winner against Chelsea back in December, which was Stoke's first win against Chelsea in the league in nearly 40 years. And and again, which kind of helped Liverpool just get ahead of them in the title race. But there's so little to say about him. He came from nowhere. He basically stayed there throughout his whole Liverpool career and then returned there. He went out to Stoke again in the 14-15 season until January, at which point we called him back. Normally, if you recall someone from loan, it's a good thing, like Danny Ward coming back from Aberdeen, or like Kevin Stewart coming back from Swindon. We recalled him so we could sell him to Al Ahly Dubai in the UAE Arabian Gulf League for 4.7 million. So he's actually one of the few players we've made a profit on in the last few years. But yeah, he admitted afterwards that he only signed them because of how much we were paying him. So a really nice chap, a really conscientious and moral, principled character, who is now playing in Holland, I think, in a relatively unremarkable fashion. And there's just nothing to say. He was just not very good.
You've managed to say a lot about someone who didn't do a whole lot. It's quite impressive.
I'm scraping the barrel. Can you hear it? That's the bottom of the barrel being scraped.
Do up your trousers, man. Sorry, rude.
Hang on. Oh no, I can't do it the other way. There we go. They've got to stay down now.
Fair enough.
A bit like Stoke, ironically.
There we go. I saw Saidi. No good to anyone really. So yeah, there's one. I'm going to bring someone in who around the same time, but a very different history with Liverpool. And that's Mr. Stuart Downing.
Yes, Stuart Downing.
Stuart Downing was one of many canny Dalglish signings that felt slightly like it was from a bygone era when you think of, the Andy Carrolls and the Charlie Adams of this world, players who may have been great in the sort of late 80s, early 90s for Liverpool, but sort of didn't feel quite like they fitted into a more modern Liverpool that we now know today. He was signed for an astonishing £20 million, which
you could get almost 10 Osama Saidis for that.
You really could. You add another 10 million on that, you can get Mo Salah. That's the level we're at now. So
bloody hell.
Yeah, that shows you the kind of level we're at. I mean, that was a lot of money at the time, like considering
Yeah.
Like now it doesn't seem a huge amount, but then it was an awful lot for a player who was in his late 20s and not particularly. Whilst very good for Middlesbrough, it sort of felt like his level, and it was a bit of a punt trying to sign him now. In his first season, he was sort of more notable for the lack of creativity. He played in 36 of the 38 Premier League games at some point. No goals and no assists in a whole season.
Yeah.
Once
you've had a season like that, it's very hard to come back from it.
He nearly did, because then the next season when Brendan Rodgers took charge, I think he sort of made it clear to him that he wanted to sell him, but Stuart Downing kind of got his head down and worked hard, and somehow managed to establish himself as a left back for Brendan Rodgers, which was a kind of an unusual thing, considering that the player who's playing in front of him in his natural left wing position was Jose Enrique.
Yeah, who something not quite right about that, is there? But no. Weirdly, both players played better in that position.
Both had probably their best spells at Liverpool in those positions. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was. After that, when you play for Brendan Rodgers, you get a few goals, in the league and in the Europa League as we were then, that competition. But it never really happened for him, and it wasn't because of things like injury, which certain players in this list will be more susceptible to. It was just never good enough, and certainly for the amount of money we paid for him, it seemed a joke. Like it seems like a really bad bit of business, and at the time it maybe didn't. So
yeah, it's a weird one in that he kind of, like you say, he really belonged to that generation of Liverpool players who kind of, if we signed him now, you'd consider them a bad signing. But I suppose, was there any difference between where Downing was when we signed him and where someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain was when we signed him? Like both of them sort of slightly stagnated at their current club, sort of an England regular, but not always sure they're deserving of it. You feel they might have a bit more to give a big team. And obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain's turned out to be a much better buy than Downing did, but you can kind of justify it as a signing, can't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do understand. I just think, it ultimately was very underwhelming.
I do always lump him in with Charlie Adam and Jordan Henderson, and it's funny to think that one of them was one of them's now kind of ploughing fields for Stoke. Downing's God knows where, and Henderson was, arguably 45 minutes away from lifting the European Cup as captain. So it's funny how.
Yeah, I think Downing's still gone back to Borough now.
Is he still at Borough? Yeah, he is. He went to West Ham from us, didn't he?
Yeah, and then we signed him from Borough, and now he's back there.
No, we signed him from Villa. He started off at Borough and then went to Villa.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I mean, he had a decent sort of England career as well, didn't he? He was still being called up for England in 2014. But it's just you can't help feel he's. Yeah. He just wasn't really good enough, was he?
Yep, and that's another one, really.
We kind of, yeah. He's a sort of a player that fills that transition between the sort of Hodgson years and the Rodgers years. That sort of, which was quite a formative spell for our club anyway, when we went from that kind of right on the brink of kind of everything going completely tits up to challenging for the title 3 years later. But there was a lot of sort of sea change in between, and he was sort of a player that kind of, it's weird because he kind of got lost because of that sea change, but he was also instrumental in it. Do you know what I mean? It kind of couldn't have happened without players like Downing, but also it happening completely did for players like Downing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, I do understand.
Yeah. It's a good shout, though. It's a good shout. I mean, I'm going to go slightly further back into our Premier League history now. Mark Gonzalez.
Exciting, yeah. He's another interesting one, isn't he?
Well, we say exciting. I cannot remember this much hype about a player since, did you say? Because we signed him on like a pre-contract agreement, and he was supposed to be the new Thierry Henry. And Mark Gonzalez was we signed him. I think it was in the summer of 2006. We just won the Champions League. We just won the FA Cup. We were a team in the ascendancy. In fact, he was supposed to be coming in 2005, but he had injury problems and, more importantly, work permit problems, which meant that we couldn't sign him. We eventually signed him in January, I think, October of 2005. Then we loaned him out a couple of times. Then we loaned him to Real Sociedad. And all this time, we have that sort of thing, a bit like we have with Divock Origi, I guess, where you sign someone, you loan them out, you're excited enough about signing them anyway, and then you see them playing abroad, and you think, God, we've got a real player in our hands here. Like, next year, our best new signing will be someone we've already signed. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember that with Origi after that season at Lille? And there was such a buzz about Gonzalez that when he finally got his work permit, and it kept getting delayed, and when we finally got it, he was going to be, the missing bit of a jigsaw that was going to take us to the Premier League. And in fairness, it started off really well for him. He scored in his debut against Maccabi Haifa of Israel in the Champions League qualifiers. The sort of team that we're going to miss playing against next year. And he didn't just score in his debut. He only came on with 5 minutes to go. And came on for Steven Gerrard, which kind of feels like a lot of pressure. And 3 minutes into that 5-minute cameo, he scored for winner. He scored on his first league start, in a 3-0 win against Tottenham. And that was it, really. He was like someone else we mentioned previously on this podcast, whose name now escapes me. Oh God, who was it?
It's No Escapes Me. Hello, No Escapes Me.
No Escapes Me. Ah, Noah, good to see you. Yeah, he arrived with all this promise and he only did a season. He didn't even stick around more than one season. It was a real kind of, like Benitez did quite often, kind of get them in, build them up, realise they're not very good and just ship them on as soon as you can. And so I kind of feel that he didn't have a fair crack of a whip, especially because he got injured in January. And never really came back for a good couple of months. So he barely played a full season for us. But it's just the expectation that came with him was just kind of so far from the reality of what we got. And I don't think it's his fault. I think he struggled to adjust, and then he got injured. But it was just the longer this whole work permit thing went on, the more you got convinced he was a real, new secret weapon about to be deployed, and it turned out to be more of a water pistol than a kind of an anti-aircraft gun or whatever.
Yeah, no, I do understand where you're coming from that, but yeah, it's just another bit of a sort of missing. There's a theme running with these players. They're all sort of just players who came and went without a whole lot of fanfare, and didn't do a whole lot for us. Maybe not necessarily horrifically bad, but just not stand out in any particular way.
Just not very good, Yeah.
And there's another one to add to that list, which I'll do next, is Albert Riera.
Yes, well, he's a great shot.
He won the Copa del Rey with Mallorca for the first time in their entire history, and that kind of put him on the radar of teams. In fact, Man City took him on loan for a bit in 2006. He didn't play a lot of games there, but he eventually signed from us from Espanyol in the September of 2008, and was kind of involved in a lot in the first season under Rafa, and played a lot of games, and he wasn't really a great goal scorer, but he was a decent creator, and it wasn't the worst, but he just sort of was very much in and out of games, and it's one of those where it was sort of like he was decent, but he wasn't making particularly great strides. And then it all sort of went wrong, in that he, in March of 2010, he went onto the radio in Spain and basically personally abused Rafa Benitez and said that he thinks he's got a personal problem with him, which earned him a 2-week suspension and he never played for us again.
Yeah, it was really weird. He really shot himself in the foot, didn't he?
I mean, it was because he wanted to play for the Spanish national team, not play again for anyone.
Yeah, he kind of, I would say of the players we've said so far, what was that, Downing, Gonzalez and Asadi, he was far and away the best.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't always turn it into action, but because I thought about including him on this list, but thought actually no, he was a decent player. He was, he was sort of somewhere between David and Gog and Dirk Kuyt level, kind of. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think that is probably fair.
Yeah, but he just, I don't know. I don't even know if it was his attitude, just so much as he just kind of.
Well, there's an interesting fact about him I found actually that he did. He was sacked from Udinese because he didn't turn up to a game he was supposed to be playing at to attend a poker tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's a fairly poor attitude.
It really is. Yeah.
I mean, did he win the poker tournament? Do we know? Do we have any?
It's not clear in my information I have.
Well, he also had a sort of fairly unpublicised fight with another member of the squad that never really got reported much. Just after he criticised Benitez, he kind of had a proper training ground bus stop.
Really?
I don't think they were one of the youth team, but they were a very young member of our squad apparently. Where it did actually come to like physical blows, and that sort of just kind of did for him as well. It's a shame. He was probably, I think he was quite a capable player,
I mean, yeah, well, it proves how capable he is that he appeared for us in a Masters tournament in Singapore last year.
That's right, yeah.
Which is quite out of the blue one.
I mean, you get some weird players playing Masters football and Legends football for us, don't you? We saw Salif Diao and Bruno Cheroux playing a team of Liverpool legends, but, I mean, because he's only just retired, hasn't he? He retired, 2 years ago?
I don't think he ever officially announced his retirement. He just sort of stopped playing.
I think he did, I think he stopped playing, and then about a year later announced his retirement, because he sort of did something about hanging his boots up, and literally hung his boots on a tree to take a photo for Instagram. In a fairly obvious visual metaphor. It's a good shout. I mean, I think he's, in terms of his ability, I think he's the best player we've had so far in this position.
Yeah, but having a fight with someone is not sensible, or indeed the manager.
No, definitely not. Would we count Victor Moses as a left winger?
I think we can.
I've sort of said most of it already in this podcast, but Victor Moses is not a player I've got a lot of time for. He had a very good debut for us. He scored in a 2-2 draw against Swansea, and that was about the last useful or interesting thing he did in his Liverpool career. It was, and remarkably, he very nearly ended up with a league winners medal, because that was the 13-14 season. He was kept out of the side mainly by Raheem Sterling. He only played 22 games in his entire career, and only 9 of them he started. I mean, Sterling was obviously, just coming through from the academy. But if you're being kept out of the team by him when you're sort of supposedly an established player, it doesn't say much for how well you're doing. I don't get how he's had this turnaround in his career. I mean, it just shows you how bad Chelsea are at the moment, really. Not a player I've got a lot of time for. I say he scored in his debut, and it was all downhill from there. Just kind of disappointing again.
Yeah, there's another one who scores on the debut. It's all downhill from there. I've got another one who actually did that, although it wasn't given, and it should have been, in Bernard Diomede.
Oh, I was going to say him. Yes, fantastic player. Well, no, not fantastic player. Fantastic shout for a despicable player.
One of 1998 France's World Cup winning squad. So he's got a World Cup winning medal to his name. Clearly baffling, because he was appallingly bad for us. Never really scored or even looked like scoring most of the time he was on the pitch. Although he did manage to score, he did score an overhead kick against Sunderland on his debut, only for it to be ruled out wrongly for not crossing the line. Which, if it happened today, maybe his whole career could have been very different.
That's it. We could be seeing him play for Liverpool international legends alongside Shearer and Diao.
Yeah, instead, he only played a handful of times for us and was abject in those. And clearly, Gerard Houllier had realised that he'd signed a bit of a dud and very quickly shipped him out again after less than a year.
No, well, he went out on loan, but he was actually at Liverpool for 3 years.
What?
Yeah, he didn't actually leave until summer of 2003.
Good God.
Somewhat implausibly. He was still hanging around there despite only playing 2 league games, and he it's weird because he feels like a player of the Houllier era. Do you know what I mean? He feels in there with like Jean-Michel Ferry and like Eric Meja. Do you know what I mean? That kind of early Houllier years signing, and yet despite that, he's only 44 now.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that doesn't feel very old, or I suppose is quite old.
Yeah, I think it's about right. I mean, I just find it amazing. He was with us for 3 years. He played 5 games.
Do you want to know my favourite Bernard Diomede fact?
Yes, please.
He made an appearance at the 2003 Rugby World Cup.
Did he?
Well, sort of. The French national rugby union team decided they'd take a lucky mascot to the World Cup with them. So they took I think it was like a rescue rooster. And named it after him.
Well, really?
They literally took Diomede the cock to.
Is that true?
Where was it played? Was it South Africa?
It was a warning. Australia.
Was it? It was the year England won it. Yeah.
Australia.
That's
amazing.
And they took this rooster as their mascot and called it Diomede, and he got really offended by it.
Not surprised.
He really wasn't happy.
That's really funny.
And he said, it's unfair on my family. Like, it's very funny if it's not you who has to have the name, has to have a rooster name after him. And somewhat hilariously, they had to send it home because it wasn't very well.
I mean,
it took ill, and so even his bloody namesake rooster didn't suffer a particularly glorious career.
That is amazing. I mean, I just find it amazing that he had so little sense of humour. Interestingly, he wore the number 13 in 1998's French World Cup winning squad, so unlucky for some, eh?
Yeah, that's normally for like goalkeepers, isn't it?
Well, each country to their own, but Bernard Diomede.
He's also basically got a French knighthood.
Was he?
As a member of the 98 World Cup winning squad, yeah, he got made a Chevalier of the Légion d'Honneur, which is basically the French equivalent of a knighthood.
That's great. I love that.
Sir Bernard Diomede. That's a fantastic shout. That's a proper great shout. I'm going to throw in a controversial one now, Matt.
Yeah.
Harry Kewell.
Okay.
I
like how you said that's controversial, because I also had him down.
Oh, okay. Not too controversial.
No.
I need to say no more. First, well, again, he's like, it seems to be particular with left wingers, which I think speaks of the sort of problems that Liverpool have had down the left-hand side down the years, in that they always seem to come with a real sort of sense of expectation and excitement, like Gonzalez, like possibly Moses, and they always just seem to be like Greg, sort of Downing, and they just don't turn out to be very good. Harry Kewell, when we got the signing of Harry Kewell, that was a massive coup for us. Man United were after him, Arsenal were after him. It was a real statement of intent that Liverpool signed Harry Kewell from Leeds, and just from the beginning, he just we signed him at the start of 2003-2004 season, which he suffered a lot of injuries. He only played 93 Premier League games for us in 5 years. Scored 12 goals in that time. Vladimir Smica gave up the number 7 shirt for Kewell. And it was a bit of a dodgy transfer anyway in terms of agent fees and that sort of thing. There was a kind of slightly unspoken deals going on in the background. But he finished 9 goals behind the top scorer in his first season. He, although he was our top scorer in the UEFA Cup, which is great. He scored against Olimpia Ljubljana, Steaua Bucharest, and Levski Sofia. So all the big guns. But he just didn't do much. He was a real kind of letdown. He didn't score for 14 matches of the 04-05 season. And of course, what he's mainly going to be remembered as was his cup final appearances. And people give people like Jimmy Traore stick for ending up with Champions League winners medal, but Traore played a lot better in the Champions League final than Kewell did. We went off after it was about 20 minutes, wasn't it? He got booed off the pitch by a certain section of the fan base, which isn't really fair, but so he kind of really let us down in the cup final. And then the next year in the FA Cup final, the exact same thing happened. 3 minutes after half time, he had to come off again, and he was just constantly injured. When he wasn't injured, he wasn't doing an awful lot of good. There's not. I know I've said a lot, but there really isn't that much to say about players who just don't turn out to be very good. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, I think there's a big difference between everyone else you said and this guy. This guy was one of the hottest properties in Premier League football. He was the key player. Him and Mark Viduka were those key players behind Leeds getting to the Champions League semi-final those years ago, right? For us to sign him for £5 million, well, as you say, all the agents' fees and stuff. Which, by the way, now that's just a common thing, but back then it was weird. It was Leeds, basically the Leeds fire sale because they had no money, and we just took him for pittance. He was a lot of clubs wanted him, and he wanted to come to Liverpool, and we got him, and he should have been this game-changing, brilliant player who just added another dimension to our midfield. And I think when you consider the other players, they had some promise, but this guy was the shit. He was incredible, and for him to turn out through no fault of his own. Maybe, Benitez did say he never quite understood why Harry Kewell was injured one day and fine the next. Who knows? Maybe he had a bit of the Daniel Sturridge vibe about him. But either way, he didn't deliver on what he was able to do for Leeds, and the fact that he is known for nothing but his injury record, to such an extent that when I went on a tour to Anfield back in 2003, they said they made a joke that Harry Kewell had a reserve sticker in the stands, which I'd never forgotten. And unfortunately, that's the thing I remember most about a player who I was very excited about when we signed.
Well, I was.
So I think he really, whether or not it's his own fault, he really, really was a huge letdown.
He was. Although, I got a good fact about Harry Kewell.
Yep.
He's the only Liverpool player to have played in 4 different major international tournaments.
There you go.
And I don't mean like 2 World Cups and 2 European Championships or anything. 4 different actual tournaments.
Okay.
In that he's played at the World Cup all for Australia, obviously. Where again, he's like one of Australia's best ever players, and he just didn't do it for us. But he played at the World Cup for them. He played at the Confederations Cup. He played in the OFC Cup of Nations, and then after Australia switched to Confederation, he played in the Asian Cup.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a record that will never be repeated.
Or unlikely to, yeah.
Yeah, well, very unlikely to, unless you end up kind of switching nationality or playing for a country that like moves.
like New Zealand or whatever.
Yeah, so that's my Harry Kewell fact.
Amazing, I like that fact. Okay, have you got any more? Because I've got a couple.
Go on, you give us one more. I've got one more.
Okay, I've got 2 or 3. I've got Mark Kennedy.
Yeah, he was my last one.
Okay, fascinatingly, Britain's most expensive teenager when we signed him.
Yeah.
For just 1.5 million in 1995 from Millwall.
What a bargain!
I know, right? The Irish flying left winger. Sort of slightly unfairly treated for us to sign what at the time was a huge amount of money for a youngster and then not really play him seemed a bit off. He only ended up playing 21 games for us. Yet another one we've mentioned today who almost scored on his debut. Scored on his debut. He hit the bar on his debut, which was the best thing he did for us. So, I mean, it's amazing how many of those have come up today, actually.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? All on the left wing.
Yeah, but he was just never really given the chance. He couldn't, so many substitute appearances. 14 of his 21 were substitute appearances, and never could get really any rhythm. It was this was during is it Roy Evans manager at the time?
Yes, it would have been. Yeah.
Just a very confusing signing and a bit debilitating to a young player who then actually went on and really struggled for a few years as a result. So I mean, it was an unfortunate one and not a great one for us, sadly.
He had quite a good renaissance at Wolves around the turn of the millennium. In fact, he was in the Wolves team that. I don't know if you remember it, when they came up, I think it was 2003, 2004, or the year before. Year before. And it was a Wolves team with Paul Ince and Dennis Irwin, and this real kind of old guard mixed with young players like Kenny, what's his name? From Rangers.
Oh, Kenny Miller.
That's him, yeah. And, a real kind of good promotion, and then they beat Man United there for the first one of the season. And so I remember him more. Obviously, I was only 4 when we signed him. No, 3. So I remember him more as a Wolves player that I knew used to play for us for naturally remembering his career. But you're right, we kind of made a big deal of signing him and then didn't really do anything with him at all.
No. And another player from the older guard is Mark Walters, actually.
That is going back a bit.
Yeah, well, the first few years of the Premier League, signed by Souness from Rangers.
Which always bodes ill.
Yes, this is it. Actually, he was at Rangers before this, and unfortunately, the most famous thing about Mark Walters was some of the worst racist abuse ever seen on this soil occurred when he was playing for Rangers, and all the Celtic fans. I mean, it's horrible to sort of describe, but there were monkey suits and bananas and objects, and it was just a horror show. And he left shortly after, actually, and came to us, signed by Souness. And actually played a lot for us. He played a total of 124 games over the course of 5 years. And in the very sort of first year or two, did pretty well. He managed to get us through in a UEFA Cup when Auxerre came to town. We were 2-0 down in the first leg, and he ended up scoring the goal that made it 3-2 and winning the game. So made himself a very popular player for us. Unfortunately,
Sorry, go on.
Unfortunately, after a good sort of season and a half, it all started going a bit wrong for him, and he started to struggle. He sort of fell out of the team. He was more interested in doing tricks and being fancy than playing, doing things for the team. And slowly but surely, it sort of scented that he became ever more inconsistent and ever more just not able to have any influence, and again, just not very good. And it was a real shame because he was a really promising player who had joined us almost by accident, really, because he wanted to leave Scotland, and became another one of our kind of like a lesser known left midfield player who should have been a lot better than he was.
I mean, you can't blame him for wanting to leave Scotland. At one point during an Old Firm derby, they actually had to stop play to clear all the bananas off the pitch, which is
gross.
Just hateful. It's awful, and this was in our lifetimes. This was like.
Well, it's just about in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, this is in the last sort of 25 years. It's kind of just about, give or take a few years, but it's such a stain on the history of British football that this sort of thing was going on, and it almost feels unfair to kind of to nominate him, really, doesn't it?
Well, I do have one other thing.
Go on.
Do you know what his middle name is? It's Everton.
Oh, no way. I wouldn't. Is that actually?
Yes, 100% true. His full name is Mark Everton Walters.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Isn't that an amazing fact? He did actually say he wanted to change it after he became sort of a bit of a Liverpool legend, but his mother told him not to.
Well, that's fair enough,
Yeah. So, I mean, if nothing else is despicable about him, that definitely is.
That is hilarious, man. That's
Anyway, I've got one more, and it's a big one.
Go on.
That you've forgotten. He could have gone into a number of categories actually during the course of this thing, but I actually thought it'd be quite nice because we started with our first nomination, our first month, with a goalkeeper who is still at the club, and so I thought, wouldn't it be fitting to end this feature with a player who's still at the club?
How on earth could I forget him?
We've already mentioned him today. It's Mr. Lazer Markovic.
Yes, I'll have a shout at that.
In terms of delivery of performance versus hype and excitement on arrival, there aren't many whose that sort of Gini coefficient is so split, isn't it? There's an economics joke for everyone there. Signed from Benfica in 2014 for the measly sum of £20 million. There was a huge amount of excitement around him. I mean, the legend that is Avram Grant, all the sensei of all things football. He said that apart from Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, Markovic is one of the best talents I've ever seen at 19 years of age. So, I mean,
wow.
He'll mature and nobody will be able to stop him. And I mean, sensei say no. So he signed from Benfica, having played at Partizan for 2 years and then Benfica for 1, and won the title every year he'd been playing. He arrived at Liverpool with quite a lot of excitement behind him. And to this day, none of us can work out why. Absolutely no one has ever seen anything good from him in a Liverpool shirt, or in fact a shirt of any other club. It's genuinely one of the most baffling decisions to have spent an extortionate amount of money at the time on him, even now. I don't know. He played a few times. He played in Brendan Rodgers' sort of 3-4-3 system when we were struggling, with Sterling up front. I mean, those were the dark days. And he played sort of left and right wing backs, and actually played probably better than at any other time. But it says a lot that when he was given a chance for under Klopp on his first pre-season, he was the worst player in a pre-season involving kids who were 16, 17 years of age and players who were definitely leaving that summer. Just an extraordinarily poor bit of decision making, and I can't understand it.
Yeah, I mean you've kind of covered it there. Yeah, I mean, it is miraculous that he's still at the club, really, isn't it? He won't. I don't think he will be this time next year, but then who knows? I mean, I didn't think Adam Bogdan would still be here. He almost, let's not forget, he actually made a matchday squad this season. He was on the bench against Leicester in the League Cup.
He did, yeah.
And I kind of really wish he'd come on. It was a day just at the end of January where it was 1,000 days since his last Liverpool appearance, which was, I think, QPR game in 2015. He's now been at the club longer without playing than playing. I can't work out what went wrong for him. Part of me just refuses to believe that he was always just terrible. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he has to have been worth 20 million to someone.
Yeah, he must have. Is it just that he couldn't take to the game in England? Because we've seen a lot of players who just can't take to English game. Do you know what I mean? Like Mark Gonzalez, they just tend to leave again. Like people like Milan Jovanovic, who also got nominated earlier this feature. Like we've seen a lot of people who just don't cut it. I don't know what it is about Markovic where he's not cut it, but he's not left.
Well, he's not cut it anywhere. He went to Sporting and they didn't want him because he wasn't very good. He went to Fenerbahce, they didn't want him because he wasn't very good. He went to Hull and actually did okay, but they couldn't afford him and went down.
Well, he was quite good at Hull, and then he almost went to Watford when Marco Silva went from Hull to there last summer. But they didn't want to pay his wages that he'd got used to getting for doing nothing. I feel quite sorry for him because when he went to Anderlecht at the end of the January transfer window, went on loan there, and he didn't play for 6 weeks because he was so unfit and he was in such bad condition. And the Anderlecht manager basically said he didn't know what they'd been doing to him at Liverpool. He was like, he was just in awful condition. And this is a player who we had no intention of playing. He didn't even train with the first team. We were like killing his career.
Well, no, I don't agree because I've heard that he has a massive attitude problem. The reason he stayed and not decided to go play football is because he just wants to take the money and not, the reason he was unfit is because he hadn't bothered training and they'd given up with him.
Okay, well that's an alternative point of view, so...
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, the evidence does speak for itself as to why he's still with us and taking the money and not just, taking the punt, taking a wage drop and gone somewhere else to play like a lot of players do.
Okay, fair enough. I have less sympathy from after that.
There we go. And that was Lazar Markovic is my last nomination. So it's time to complete the squad.
Well, this is a
tough one.
It is, isn't it?
There's no real standouts, so I think we have to do the whole let's eliminate those who probably don't deserve to be there type of thing.
I mean, Harry Kewell was disappointing. Do I think he was worse than, Gonzalez or Diomede or Kennedy? No. So I think we should probably take Harry Kewell off.
Okay, I'd like to take Kennedy off as well because I think he was too young and not given a fair chance.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So take those two off.
I will take I'll take Stuart Downing off. I think he was disappointing and he had an overinflated price tag, but that wasn't his fault. And he got better for us and he was quite good at left back, so we'll let him off.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll take off Mark Walters.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough as well.
Despite the Everton thing, which is just embarrassing.
So who does that leave us with? Gonzalez, Asaidi, Moses, Diomede, and...
Riera and Markovic.
Riera is probably the second best player of the lot after Harry Kewell in terms of, if not better than Harry Kewell in terms of how he performed for us. I don't think we can put Albert Riera in there. I think we have to scratch him off the list.
Okay, I will do that. Oh, this is so difficult now. I know you don't have a lot of time for Victor Moses.
No.
But I don't think he's as bad as the others on this list.
Okay, no, I'll go with that. That's fine.
Just because he did score a couple of goals and at times did play okay for us in a way that none of the others really did.
See, I like Bernard Diomede, but he was awful.
I mean, this is the problem. I mean, the thing with Lazar Markovic is he did have a few good games for us.
I mean, he did for a while become our the highest shirt number to ever score for us because he was number 50, wasn't he? Which I feel should somehow count in his favour.
I think the other three probably played... I really wanted to put him in just because I like the symmetry of the first and last player still being here, but in the long run that doesn't really count for anything. So I think I wanted to put Lazar in, but I think he's just a bit better than the others, and he did do a few decent things. It's just annoying that he's still here.
Yeah, I think he's not had a fully fair crack of a whip.
No, whether or not that's the fault of the club or the fault of him and his attitude.
Yeah, so let's take him off.
And that leaves us with 3. So let's have a look at this. If we were to put a final 2, I think we both agree that Diomede would be part of the final 2.
Yeah, definitely.
So who's worse, Assaidi or Gonzalez? I know which one I'd go for.
Who would you go for?
Assaidi.
I agree completely. I think Gonzalez was underwhelming and disappointing, but that wasn't because he was so much a bad player. It's just he'd had so much expectation on his shoulders, whereas Assaidi hadn't had any expectation on his shoulders at all because no one had heard of him, and he was still disappointing. So,
And so that leaves us with the Assaidi or Diomede, which is a wonderful, wonderful rhyme.
it is, isn't it? There's lovely sort of poetry in there.
God, I don't know.
I think I do, to be honest.
All right.
I think it's got to be Diomede.
All right. I'm swayed. I'm 60-40 in Diomede's favour.
I mean, even the rooster named after him wasn't a very good rooster. Do you know what I mean?
No. And the fact you got so annoyed about it and you couldn't take a joke.
I mean,
That's sad,
it's a bit hurtful, but yeah.
Have a laugh. It's not meant in insult.
No. Well, it might have been, but
Hey,
I just think that, Assaidi was poor, but he still managed to play 12 games, whereas Diomede couldn't even get to, 6, do you know what I mean? So we should kind of trust that speaks volumes in itself. And yet he's got a World Cup winners' medal.
Which is outrageous.
He's got something that literally all but 11 of footballers in English football history have got.
Well, the however many players there were in the squads back then. But yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, originally they only gave the actual 11 a medal, but then they did reverse that a few years ago and backdate them. But yeah, shall we say Diomede completes the 11?
Bernard Diomede. What a great, terrible 11.
Sir Bernard Diomede.
It does complete the 11. Thank you very much. And that is our outfield 11 done. But we did mention at the end of the last podcast, you keen listeners, that we would introduce a subs bench as well, in which both Owen and myself would have one free choice from anyone who has not been picked yet. And that would be a free choice. They could do whatever they wanted, and we couldn't argue with it. And they would go on the bench, and then we'd share one more choice together based on anyone else left to complete a sort of 3 subs in a typical sort of game that you would have. So Owen, have you got your choice for me?
Yes, I have.
And it is
Mario Balotelli.
Mario Balotelli. Why?
Because he was awful.
I need more than that.
It's
not great content, Owen. Remember.
So he was signed as a sort of replacement for Suarez. He was a big marquee player. His whole signing was a kind of statement of hubris and arrogance, and the fact that we thought we would be the ones to resuscitate him and salvage his career. We thought we were his salvation, which was a noble but misguided goal. He didn't give a damn. He was lazy, he was petulant, he was arrogant, he was unimpressive, he wasn't very good, he wasn't very nice, he vanished without trace relatively quickly, he did nothing of any great consequence for the team, he was replacing a player who was astronomically better than him, which only made him look worse, off the pitch, on the pitch, disappointing, depressing, dislikable, despicable.
Jeez, but that well said. I mean, if I'm being honest, that was my first choice as well. But
sorry.
No, it's good because I've got other choices too. Yeah, absolutely in the number 12 without any question. My choice actually is going to be slightly. I don't know how surprised you are going to be by this, but if you're talking about players similar to maybe Lazar Markovic and sort of expensive failures and disappointments who replace, particularly you also mentioned someone who replaced someone of much higher quality. My choice is Alberto Aquilani.
That's a good shout. That's a very good shout.
Signed for 20-odd million quid to replace Xabi Alonso. Came with such high hopes and delivered so little less. I had a lot of injury problems, but even when he did play, underwhelming. Didn't seem to be particularly offensive or defensive, just seemed to exist as a player. Stayed with us far too long. Didn't particularly care about the club. Wanted to go back to Italy. And I just think generally, from what we expected and hoped to what we got, I don't know if there are many players that we've talked about who have a bigger disparity.
No, I can't argue with any of that. A bit like Balotelli as well. We sold one of our best players of the last 20 years and replaced him with one of the most underwhelming.
So, that's my unlucky for star number 13, which leaves us with one more. Now, is there anyone else you were thinking about, you kind of wanted to put in that wasn't those two?
Yeah, there were a few.
See, because I was thinking Milan Jovanovic was probably my next choice, mainly because after I watched his attempt to head or clear the ball away and miss it completely, still makes me laugh to this day, and it's probably the favourite thing I've discovered throughout the course of the last year.
I would say him or someone like Christian Poulsen.
I mean, yeah, both Brendan, both
Roy Hodgson signings.
Roy Hodgson signings, yeah.
Although Jovanovic, I think, was Benitez on a pre-contract agreement.
Yeah, the disaster of that.
But given that we've put Joe Cole and Konchesky in already, we are basically burying all of Hodgson's signings.
We really are. Yeah, but it's going to be either way, really. Yeah, I was thinking, couldn't really think of anyone else. The goalkeepers, maybe. But, I mean, there's no one really worse than Bogdan, apart from a player who we can't nominate. So.
Yeah, so... right. Well, there we have it. Poulsen or Jovanovic.
Who are we thinking?
I think Poulsen came with a bigger pedigree and was therefore more of a disappointment.
Remember, Milan Jovanovic scored Serbia's winner against Germany all these years ago.
I could never forget. I've told you before about how much I loved his celebration.
Yeah.
I think he was probably a worse player, but Poulsen was more disappointing.
That is a despicable 11, not a disappointing 11.
Yeah, I don't know if Jovanovic was bad enough to be despicable, but
then despicable players weren't necessarily bad players. I mean, look at Albert Riera we just talked about. He had a serious problem at some point or other, but he was a decent player.
Yeah, I've got a weird soft spot for Jovanovic, and I can't really put my finger on why.
I wouldn't if you dared. Would you prefer that over someone like Andrew Voronin?
Well, I've got a weird soft spot for him as well, but I think Voronin was. I think Voronin was a better player in terms of the goals he scored. He was much better than Jovanovic, much better. I mean, not good enough for Liverpool, but much better than Jovanovic. I guess we have to be objective about these things, don't we? Well, no, we don't have to be. It's our show. We can do what we want. But,
exactly.
Not the bloody BBC. It's not that. But
All right. Do you want to give it to Poulsen? Because I think you want to give it to him.
I think he was really crap as well. That's the thing. I think he was really. Yeah. I don't know why I don't want to give it to Jovanovic. I really can't put my finger on why.
It's fine. We don't have to. We'll give it to Poulsen.
Yeah. Let's give it to Poulsen.
All right, Christian Poulsen. Unfortunately, you are the 14th and final member of our Despicable 11, and that fills out the bench, and that completes the whole feature.
Oh man.
It's been exhausting, depressing, and fascinating. A bit like a night with me. So let's this is so what we're going to do with this now. So we're going to put together a full list, little lineup, little image thing, and we'll probably post this up somewhere, probably on the Twitter account, and people can have a little look and laugh at our ridiculous nominations if they so choose.
Or disagree. Get in touch and disagree.
Yeah, disagree with us. Tell us who was worse than the players in our list, and I challenge you to do so, because some of them are so bad. But that was a nice catharsis throughout the last year.
It was, wasn't it?
Let's move on. So the monthly reviews are coming to an end. But before we do leave, we are going to do a couple of little features that we've enjoyed throughout the last 12 or so months it's been. So as usual, every year we do this, we pick one of our favourite features and we do them again just to see what happens, remind ourselves of the fun we've had on the last year of podcast, and all the new listeners listening, thank you very much for doing so. As well as introduce, see what happens and see where we can go from there. This year it's my turn to pick a feature first, and so we're not going too far back actually for this. In fact, it's only a couple of months ago I think we did the feature that we're about to do now, and we actually talked about how we wanted to kind of revisit some of the work that Owen and I had actually done on this, because there's a lot more that's happened both in and outside the club since, and we decided to go and revisit and have another look around. So without further ado, this is another completely average, totally normal day at Melwood.
Well, it started, didn't it? It was we pulled into the car park in our Jeep because obviously you and me always use a Jeep when we're travelling on business, and it was kind of unfortunate because we got a puncture as soon as we got through down the driveway, didn't we? The weird thing was on all four wheels, and so we were literally just inside the main gate of Melwood, and we had to get out of the car, and we only had one spare tyre in the Jeep, and that was on the back of the Jeep, as you know, Jeep tyres are. So we had to literally, and this was quite early. This was 6 a.m. Would you say it was, Matt?
Yeah, just opening time for sort of the kitchen staff are still there, and no one's known the staff there yet. So
we had to basically get the wheel brace off and take the wheels off the next car we saw, which was this nice little Jaguar, just in the players' part of the car park. We had no ideas who it was, but we thought we'd take the wheels off, get to the Jeep, because we couldn't leave it in the driveway. We were blocking the entrance for everybody, and we were halfway through doing that when, oh God, it was quite extraordinary what happened next, wasn't it?
Oh, it really was. As we were getting to work, suddenly a big group of school kids started trying to climb over the fence. At this early time in the morning, I think they were off to school, off to early morning school. And don't know why it's so early, but that's it's not my place to judge.
It's Catholic school, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so they have to get there nice and early for mass. I don't really know much about Catholics, but they sort of looking over the fence, trying to see their favourite players and things, not quite realising that it's too early, and they see us, and one of them shouts over to us, "Oi, mate!" in a clearly a Scouse accent there.
Clearly.
Oi, mate! What you doing? And we sort of explained that we had problems with our car, and are you trying to rob the place? No, we're not trying to rob the place. He seems to think that we're like burglars. I don't know why. I mean, maybe the all black outfits and masks didn't help, but. No. I'm going to call the cops on you, mate. All right, and then we had to go and explain. So I leave you to start working on the thing, on the car, and I go over to these kids and just sort of explain what happens. To which point they all leg it all of a sudden, and I'm sort of like, what are they looking at? And then coming from down the road was a bigger surprise than I was expecting.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were terrified about blocking the driveway for more cars. And so we thought, well, we got to get the wheels off the car so we can let all the cars through. Which is why we were really, really perplexed when we saw Simon Mignolet riding down down the entrance to Melwood on a stallion, on a fine piebald thoroughbred stallion. And he just, and when I say riding, he was galloping. Do you know what I mean? It was proper like pounding of the hooves against concrete, like little sparks coming off of horseshoes and everything. And he was there in his full kit, like not his training kit, but his match day kit. And he got there and he did this enormous kind of great sort of equestrian leap over our broken down Jeep, and lands and sort of pulls the horse up with a and he looks down at us and he says, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and we said, "Well, we're just trying to take the wheels off his car." And I said, "Why the hell are you doing that?" I said, "Well, because our car's got 4 punctures and we just need to move it before there's an accident." And I mean, you said, "Well, there won't be an accident today. It's there's no players are coming in today." And we said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, they're never coming on this day." And we said, "This day? What are you talking about? Like, we're here to just conduct an interview. Where is everyone?" And he looked down at us from the top of this thoroughbred stallion. And do you remember what he said? Do you remember his explanation, Matt?
He did. He said it was Ultimate Travel Day.
That was it.
Ultimate Travel Day is a day organised by a club once a month, usually between games. But obviously, as it was the end of the season at this point, it was between the Champions League final and the last game of the season. He says to go on the Ultimate Travel Day, where once a month one of the players picks a location for them to go to. And they go there and they have a day and they spend time together and they have to do a lot of exciting and interesting activities, sort of like, imagine a stag do without the alcohol. And they're like, "Okay, Simon, why are you here and not on this Ultimate Travel Day with them? And secondly, where are they? Because we're meant to be conducting interviews and doing a bit more research and things. And I mean, why isn't anyone here?" And why are you here? And he explains. Well, basically, he was there to pick up his some bits and pieces he'd left behind in his locker. Like, he'd left his wallet there, and he wanted to grab a t-shirt and things like that he'd left there. And so he'd brought his horse with him, because of course the stallion was the most efficient and natural way of getting there. Because Simon is very carbon footprint conscious.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
And he said that the ultimate travel day this time had been picked by James Milner. Now, James Milner, of course, the last time we'd seen James, him and Klopp had tried to run away, stealing the land ownership deeds to everything at Anfield and Melwood. So clearly,
that was a very strange day, wasn't it?
That was a very strange day. But no, James Milner had picked the place, and it was surprising that rather than go on something exciting like jet skiing around sort of the Mersey River or going sort of quad biking through the Cotswolds or something really exciting, he wanted to go to a holiday park.
Yeah, just outside of Yedden, weirdly. And we said to Simon, Yedden, are you sure? Nothing ever happens in Yedden. And he said in that wonderful Belgian accent of his, are you sure? I thought it was the capital. And we said, you what? He said, I thought it was the capital of the UK. We said, what, Yedden? And it turned out that at some point, back before he'd, when he first signed for the club, Ricky Lambert had been joking around with him, and had told him that he'd been pronouncing London wrong, and it was pronounced Yedden. I don't know why he chose to do this, but basically it stuck, and so for the last sort of 4 years, Simon Mignolet had thought that Yedden was the capital of England, and yeah, it was really bizarre, and so Sam Mignolet said, yeah, well, we're going to a holiday camp there now. Is there anything to do? And I said, well, there's archery, and there's paintballing now off the top of my head. You get to watch it dry afterwards, and there's I think there's orienteering and metalwork and all sorts of other things. And he said, well, why has James taken us to a holiday park outside of Yedden on the A64? And we said, well, your guess is as good as ours. I mean, I think he's got shares in the place, but to be honest, it's not been doing very well. I mean, if anything, I'd have thought that he'd be kind of keeping it as hush-hush as possible and wouldn't want to draw any attention to it. And so we said, there's only one reason to definitely find out where this Yedden obsession's come from again. Why don't we come with you? And he said, okay. So we hitched up on the back of his stallion. And there followed a brief period where both me and Matt vigorously rode Simon Mignolet's stallion. For hours, really, wasn't it?
It's a long way. It's a long way from Melwood to North Yorkshire, but we did go all the way on the horse, travelling through the fields and the mount and the hills, and we sort of eventually, using sort of sat navs and our intuition and our phones, and managed to find our way to this holiday park. And there were two things that left us dumbfounded. The first was the sight that we saw when we got there, because when you sort of think of holiday parks, you think of the typical 1970s British holiday, with mobile static homes, that people stay in, and like an amusement arcades and, fairgrounds and sort of things for kids to run around in, and activity centres and, maybe a running track and things like that. That's the sort of thing.
Flumes. Lots of flumes, yeah.
Things that we were expecting, that would happen in a holiday sort of park resort type place. And we, James Milner is a very sort of calm and mannered character, which is why it's so surprising that he's so evil inside. That we were kind of expecting it to be very calm. But it wasn't at all. In fact, it was possibly the most garish and disturbing thing I'd ever seen in my life. There were neon lights everywhere. It was dark. It was sinister. It was playing this really aggressive acid house music. It was, there were dancing girls everywhere, and there was, alcohol and drugs and, all the excesses of life that you wouldn't expect to see with James Milner, of course. It was incredible, but what was even more incredible was when we looked behind us, it was all the kids from earlier who chased us all the way here. Yeah,
and they whereas before they looked at us really accusingly because they thought they were stealing that car. Now it was just it was kind of terror in their faces, but pleading, and we said, guys, what's up? What's wrong? You look awful. And I said, you need to help us. You need to help us, free the others. And I said, what do you mean through the others? And, we're just here riding Simon Mignolet's stallion. And to be honest, we've been riding it for a couple of hours now, and my legs are a bit sore. Like, I couldn't walk properly. You know how it is with horses. And we said, we need to get our team back with the rest of the players. They came on ahead early. Simon Mignolet just called back in at Melwood to pick up some things for the horse, and they can't get out. We've had a text from Andy Robertson saying, we're trapped. James Milner's, he's locked us inside the table tennis room, and it was bizarre. And so we said, okay, well, we'll help you, obviously, but God, this is mental. And luckily, we were dressed in black because with the masks on, because that's probably why they thought we were stealing that car in the first place. So in a way, it was a stroke of luck. But we said, what do you need us to do? Like, how can we help free the majority of the Liverpool first team squad and Loris Karius from being locked in James Milner's table tennis room?
Well, this is it. And they said, well, you're going to have to infiltrate. You two look dressed for the occasion in your black with your masks in a, rather seedy, dark, dingy looking place that sort of wouldn't stick out in a Soho alleyway. You're perfect for this. In fact, you almost look too perfect for this, as if you're planning to be here the whole time. So you're going to have to infiltrate. So go in undercover, look around, get some intel, find out this table tennis room, which we suspect isn't a table tennis room like you would imagine. We aren't really sure what's involved, but there are certainly bats and balls and nets involved. And go and find, I don't know how these kids knew about this, but there we go. And go in and have a look. And we think the best thing to do is we need to shut off the power. If we shut off the power, that will give us enough time to get everyone out and get them away. We'll go round up some vehicles. Again, these are kids. I don't know how they can drive, but we didn't really want to ask questions. But yeah, you guys go in, get them free. And then we will text you a meeting point. We will try and see if we can arrange some cars or other vehicles, because actually there was, interestingly, a big sort of lake essentially near the park, which is where sort of swimming activities would take place, well, we thought anyway. It was a lot more inappropriate than we expected. But we saw that and thought, right, if we can get on that lake on a boat, we can get across the lake into the forest on the other side, and we can make an escape through there. And so they all disappeared off. Simon Mignolet sort of stayed outside and kept guard. He wanted to make sure that there was no one coming in, as the only player who wasn't there now realised that he was basically the only player, the only Liverpool player who could play the match on Saturday. So he was there, and we made our way through the front entrance, paid the tickets prices from the weird men not wearing a huge amount of clothing, and went inside.
So we were having to find a way to shut off the power. And so we immediately thought, well, the best way to do it is go to the generator room. Where's the generator? Well, it's always, as Matt will testify, always underneath the waltzer, isn't it? The main generator room of any holiday camp. So we kind of went through the main entrance, and we took a left through a couple of bushes, and as you do, and got to the fairground, and it was chaos there, because there were just all these Russian children on dodgems, but not on a dodgem rink. They were just driving around the fairground, like, independently in little dodgems, and we kind of had to. Luckily, they were all foreign and small, so they didn't actually take much notice of us. But every now and then, one of them would almost come and kneecap us. So we, after several somersaults and dives out of the way, we made it to the waltzer, and the thing is, the door was locked, so we had to. We had to really think on our feet, and luckily we had Kenny Dalglish's prize crowbar, which do you remember when Kenny Dalglish gave us that crowbar, Matt?
I do. It was the incident involving the fence and the soap, right?
That was it. Yeah, that was a good day. But yeah, we had this crowbar, and we just smashed the lock off. And you said to me at one point, "Do you think Kenny Dalglish, Sir Kenny Dalglish, would mind us, congratulations by the way, would mind us smashing, James Milner's padlock off his own waltzer in his own holiday park near Yedden?" And you said that to me, and I said, nah, I'd be fine with it. And so we just kept bludgeoning away, and eventually got padlock off and opened the doors, and we crept down into this generator room underneath the waltzer, and And there was probably one of the most terrifying sights I've ever seen in my 26 years on this planet, Matt.
It was indeed.
Couldn't believe it.
Having smashed James Milner's back doors in, he was there, in front of us, in a chair, wheeling around on an office chair, holding what I think he thought was a cap, but it was too dark to realise was a scarf.
It was a nice scarf, though.
It was very nice. It was, white with a sort of nice little black lining through it. I think it was Next. Maybe I'm wrong.
Was that the Next or H&M? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, say nice, but actually that doesn't sound too nice when you say it like that. Yeah, sat there waiting for us all along. He knew we were coming, because this may have been the generator room, but there was also the security room next door, and he was sat there looking at the security cameras and watching us the whole time. And so we walk in, and he sits there, lit a single match in the dark with all the lights out.
And he said, "Chaps, what's going on? Why have you smashed my back doors in? Why have you been going through me bushes? Why have you been vigorously riding Simon Mignolet's stallion?" And we said, "James, this has got to stop. There's a Champions League final in 4 days' time, and you've kidnapped the entire Liverpool first team squad and Loris Karius. This ends now, James. What have you done? Like, this whole fairground, it's full of half-naked men and weird Russian children in dodgems and admittedly quite inviting-looking flumes, and actually the archery looks quite good. And I haven't done orienteering for ages. And with the metalwork, can I make like a little
Owen?
Yes, sorry, okay. James. Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Guys, I built all this for you." And we said, "What?" And he said, "Guys, you know, I've always wanted to just build a holiday park and, run my own holiday park, and the football and all of that has been a pleasant distraction, but my heart's not in it. And I thought, who do I know that could actually appreciate my life's dream of opening my own little holiday park just off the A46 near Yedden?" And so I thought, I'll build it, and if I build it, they will come, and I can meet them face to face here underneath a waltzer, or perhaps at some other location within the confines of my holiday park, and I can say, "Chaps, it's so good you're here. Do you want a squash?" And we looked at him and we said, "Jane, I don't understand. You built a whole holiday park for us." He's like, "Chaps, I just wanted to get to know you. I just wanted to, hang out." And I don't know about you, Matt, but that blew me away. That absolutely blew me away.
It did. It did. But while you were sat there listening to this and taking all this in, something out the corner of my eye got my attention. I saw what looked to be a very tall, very lanky man trying to creep slowly out of the building. It's Jurgen Klopp. He's doing a runner. They distracted us. James Milner was trying to distract us all along, and he knows it. And Jurgen's made a runner, and he's out the back door. And James Milner throws the scarf in your face, and you fly backwards with the scarf in your face, and it's trapped, and it's not as good quality as you was expecting, so you're struggling to get rid of it. And Milner
definitely H&M.
Milner runs out the front door, and so we decide to split. I'll go after Klopp, you go after Milner. We've got to get them. Klopp runs off, and he's starting to run down past the half-naked ladies in the cages, past the heavy metal room, past the slightly, that archery does look fun, actually. Can we ever go to the archery? No. I know. I'm running after Klopp, and he's much quicker than me because he's very tall and I have only small little legs. So I don't know what you're doing, but you've started to chase after James Milner, going through the other way, heading back out towards the entrance. And so we split up, but weirdly, we've managed to remember to put in our earpieces so we can still communicate with each other. So I'm feeding back information, and I'm watching Jurgen run and jump and slide, and he disappears into the trees that are just by that lake that we talked about earlier. And at this point, we aren't sure if the backup's coming. We aren't sure if the boats are there. We aren't sure, where's Simon Mignolet gone? Is he still at the door, guarding the door? They've both made a runner, and I'm following Klopp right now, and he's disappeared in the trees, and I think I might have lost him, but he's so tall, surely I can spot him. And then I start hearing this big howling German cackle and laugh from him, and it all starts to go dark, and I start to see his face appearing in all the night, just appearing from everywhere, like Slender Man or the cat from Alice in Wonderland, and it's really terrifying, and I'm getting a bit scared. And and then you buzz in, Owen, and you know what's happening with you.
Well, it's really weird because I've gone the other way and I've tracked James Milner down, and he's just pulled up with a twinge, and he said, "Oh no, this is what kept me out of here. This is what kept me out of the Chelsea game." And I said, "James, it's over. Give it up. Lead us to Klopp, and we can get you help, James. Take us to Klopp. Stop him doing this. He's got the deeds to Liverpool Football Club. He's gonna end everything. Help us stop him, James, and we will make you captain, not just vice captain, not just coming on for the last half an hour of the match. We will make you captain, James. Think of all the trophies you might lift as captain: the Audi Cup, the International Champions Cup, the MLS All-Star Game Cup, the Emirates Cup, and the FA Premier League Asia Trophy." And he said, "Oh yeah, I really like that one." I said, "James, that could be yours. That big, weird, sort of bowl, scooped, upturned dome thing they give out to the winner of Leicester versus Hong Kong United. That could be your hands on that, James. Take us to Klopp." And he looked at me with his Yorkshire eyes and he said, "All right, go on. Hop in." I said, "James, that doesn't hop into what? We just stood on a pavement." He said, "Oh yeah, but hang on, bear with me." I went away and he got a tandem and he said, "All right, hop on." And so I jumped on the back of James Milner's tandem and we pedalled furiously and we got to the lake and I saw you there on the edge of a lake, Matt. And do you remember what happened next?
I do, yes. I'd followed the Jurgen Klopp's voice through the woods and ended up at the other sort of 45 degree angle from where you were in the lake. We could see each other briefly, and I could see you had James Milner, and I guess you'd caught him. And I could see coming up behind you was Simon Mignolet, who'd obviously got distracted, not looking at what he was meant to be doing. And he followed you down, and he had brought a couple of the kids with him. Some of the kids were clearly with him on bicycles and little kit cars in order to start freeing the people who were in there, freeing the players. We hadn't really seen where they were, so I guess you were having that discussion over there with them. And while I was there, I could see Jurgen in the distance, and I realised I need to go out, and he's swimming out. He's swimming out there. He's making his escape by swimming, manically laughing and managing to take on water and coughing every so often as he swam. And we realised neither of us can swim, so we can't go after him.
No.
So what do we do? And we looked on the horizon. We saw a bunch of yellow dots that started to get bigger and bigger over the water. And it was a bunch of yellow dinghies being led, hundreds of yellow dinghies, all being led by young Scouse Catholic kids who are delighted not to go to Mass. And who was at the front of this gaggle of Catholic children but Christian Benteke on his dinghy, who wasn't very well aware that they were there. He was just having a nice dinghy ride and hadn't quite realised that once again he was there to save the day, completely inadvertently, as he leads this gang of kids and surrounds Jurgen in a big circle, and then followed by a 5-minute routine where Klopp couldn't escape and they did some weird dance tricks. I don't quite know why they did that. They could have just picked him up. Anyway, Christian Benteke then bumps into Jurgen Klopp and drags him on the boat, and he has got Jurgen once again.
I mean, what a conclusion that was. I just couldn't believe it. And all the kids were cheering, and and Simon Mignolet was doing tricks on his horse, and even James Milner reached behind on his tandem and just ruffled my hair. And I'll never forget going home that day with you, Matt, and as we got back to our Premier Inn in Liverpool, can you remember what we said to each other?
Oh shit, the car.
Oh shit, the Jeep, exactly. What we're going to do about the Jeep, but we'll never know. That's a story for another day. It is time for another of our favourite features from the last season. It is a game we like to call My Clough, or Would I Lie to a Moo? It is the Liverpool-themed version of those two great television panel games. Me and Matt have got 2 rounds of 3 facts for each other. Matt's concerning former Liverpool players from our illustrious 125-year history. Mine concerning our current Champions League runners-up squad. Of the 3 facts we will tell each other, only one of them will be true. The others will be complete horse shit. It is up to the other to work out which is the fact and which is the fiction as we play Call My Clubs.
Three facts for you, Owen. Fact number 1. Michael Stensgaard didn't ever play a game for Liverpool because of an injury involving an ironing board.
Ooh.
Fact number 2. Frode Kipper's daughter appeared in the final of Norway's Got Talent this year.
That I can believe.
Fact number 3. Martin Hansen owns over 40 farmyard animals.
Now, I have to pick apart these forensically and try and work out which is the truth. Let's start with Martin Hansen.
Yes, you may.
Does he have a farm?
Yes, they aren't just in a flat somewhere. Yes, he
Okay,
does
well,
own a farm.
You never know. I don't know how well he's doing. Is that in his native Denmark?
No, it's not. It's in Ingolstadt, in Germany, where he's been playing for a few years. This year actually went on loan to Heerenveen, but he bought a farm while he was in Ingolstadt with his sort of wife and kids.
His sort of wife?
His sort of wife, yeah, well, that's what they call them. No, his wife and I think he's got 1 kid. I don't know if it's 1 or 2, I couldn't quite remember what they said. But yeah, so apparently he grew up sort of in farmsteads and stuff, and he always sort of enjoyed the lifestyle. And it's also a good way to make a bit of extra money, apparently, because whilst his goalkeeping career is going okay, he has had a number of spells without it, and apparently it's just another way of making money, and he just enjoys the farm life, supposedly.
Oh, fair enough. It's supposed to be a very nice life. What animals are they? Are they all the same kind of animal or different breeds?
I'm guessing so. Well, according to his the little bio I read of him, he grew up on a cattle farm. So
Okay.
yeah, he's more like his father and mother ran a cattle farm, and so cows were the thing. But I think they've also got like some pigs and a couple of things like that. I generally wasn't really interested in the animals. I know that's bad, but I just like the fact that he had over 40. He said he had over 40 farmyard animals. So I'm guessing, yeah, he said he had a pig. So I think a couple of sheep as well, maybe. I think he said he had some sheep.
Sounds good. I can imagine he would have pigs, being a Dane. That makes sense.
It's a bit racist.
Well, I'm a racist, Matt. What can I say?
Oh dear.
I'm not really a racist, just to clarify for any listeners, I'm definitely not a racist.
Mm-hmm.
So Jürgen Nielsen. No, it's more Michael Stensgaard, isn't it?
Well,
no, was it
Jürgen Nielsen wasn't involved.
Yes, sorry. It was Michael Stensgaard, wasn't it?
Michael Stensgaard and
With the
Frode
ironing
Kipper
board.
was the other one.
And Frode Kipper. Now, the ironing board thing sounds quite familiar, but I'm not sure if it was him or Jürgen Nielsen. I don't know if I'm mixing it up with something else. So tell me more. Tell me more. What happened?
So shortly after signing for Liverpool, Martin Stensgaard in his sort of had a new house. He was so the story goes that he was putting up an ironing board one day, and it was falling over, and he tried to sort of catch it to stop it hitting hitting a table or something, or hitting something quite delicate, and he managed to dislocate his shoulder. Which not only put him out for a couple of months, actually meant he never then played for us again. So he never actually got a game for us as a result of the injury.
Wow. And does he... you'd have thought he would have someone to do his ironing for him, wouldn't you?
Well,
And so was he particularly regretful about this? I mean, I imagine you would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, he said it was his dream to play for Liverpool. They were his boyhood club.
Oh,
so
that's really sad.
Kind of gutting for him that
Yeah.
he was basically his entire sort of dream was shattered by essentially an ironing board. And simply trying to not break stuff in his house. Yeah.
And he dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah.
By it falling on him, or
trying to catch it as it was falling.
Trying to catch it, and it just popped his shoulder out.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of topical with the Mo Salah injury. So
I don't know if that makes it more or less likely.
No, I don't. I'm not really sure why I said that. It's not really got any bearing on it whatsoever. And then, so Frode Kipper was the last one. His daughter was on Norway's Got Talent.
Yeah, appeared in the final of Norway's Got Talent.
In the final. Yeah. Did she win? Did you say, or she just got?
No, she didn't win. She was just one of the finalists.
What was her talent? Is the obvious question.
She was a singer. She was an 8-year-old little girl who sings.
Oh, she's only 8. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I was imagining like a 20-year-old.
Well, Freddie Kipper's 38, so I mean, to be fair, could have a 20-year-old, I suppose.
Raheem Sterling's got about 5 kids.
That's true. Yeah.
So what did she sing?
So she was a soul pop kind of cover singer. So did a couple of songs that I recognised. She did Amy Winehouse Back to Black. She did a Just Stone song, wasn't sure what it was called, as well as a couple of like native Norwegian-y things. They're all kind of soul-y pop covers, really.
Well, that's quite impressive for an 8-year-old. Probably said. And so has she got, has she got a record deal lined up? Is she?
I mean, I don't know. I sort of felt a bit weird trying to Google an 8-year-old girl at some point.
Yeah, that's legit.
I'm committed to any feature we do, but not if it involves the police. So I thought I'd better steer clear. However, I can tell you, well, her name is Cecil Jordan.
Cecil Jordan.
Cecil Jordan Kipper. Kipper's such a stupid name, isn't it? You can't say it without just thinking it's silly.
It's very hard to find any first name that really goes with Kipper, except weirdly Frody. But
Frody Kipper. Yeah, that is very true. Of course, Frody Kipper's still playing, don't you?
Is he really?
Yeah,
he's not.
Yeah, he is. He's at Lillestrøm. He's still playing.
But you just said he was 48.
38.
38. He's only 38.
Yeah.
Frody Kipper, he played for us in like the mid-90s, didn't he?
He's 38. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So.
See that? I question. I can believe his daughter was on Always Got Talent, but I can't believe he's only 38.
Yeah, I mean, once this is over, you can look it up. But
I shall. Oh yeah, I should have said to the listeners, we are not allowed to use any form of fact checker during this feature.
No, otherwise it would kind of ruin the game, wouldn't it? Really?
It would certainly ruin the game. Yeah. Though we both obviously have access to the internet while recording this, it would completely cock it up if we were just on Google checking. Okay, so we've got. Michael Stensgaard and his ironing board, Frody Kipper and his soul singing daughter, or Martin Hansen's farmhand animals and sort of wife. There's something about the Jorgen Nielsen one that rings a bell. Not Jorgen Nielsen, Michael Stensgaard. How can it ring a bell when I can't remember his bloody name?
Jorgen Nielsen isn't in the game.
No, I think I'm going to go for Michael Stensgaard. I think I'm going to plump for that one. I don't know why, but something about the Mo Salah thing is just really pointing me towards that.
And that's the only reason, not because you think the other two aren't legit.
No, I think the other two are very believable, except for I don't believe for a second. Well, I mean, yeah, I can believe Martin Hansen keeps farm animals. I can't believe Frody Kipper's only 38, mind.
I mean, that wasn't in the fact. That was just something that I thought was interesting.
No, but it does blow my mind.
Well, anyway, as usual, Owen, you're very good at this game and you got it right.
Ah, yes.
Michael Stensgaard genuinely never played for Liverpool as a result of injuring himself by catching an ironing board and dislocating his shoulder.
That is kind of heartbreaking, isn't it?
It's also hilarious.
I mean, I can't actually believe that the others are, like... I can believe that one's true, but I can't necessarily believe the others aren't. Do you know what I mean?
That's good.
Frody Kipper thing's really convincing, yeah. Has he actually even got a daughter? Is he actually... Like, how much of that was true? Is he actually only 38?
Yes, he is only 38.
That's insane. That's mental. How is he only 38?
And he's still playing, so...
I don't understand this.
Yeah, that is legitimately true. But yeah, no, he doesn't have a daughter who was in Norway's Got Talent this year, no.
Are you ready for your ones on the current squad, Matt?
I am. I'm going to be embarrassed here because you're so good at this game and I'm terrible at it.
Statement number 1. Nathaniel Klein could have chosen to represent 4 different nations at international level due to having 4 different grandparents. Well, as in everyone's got 4 different grandparents. Grandparents with 4 different nationalities. Statement number 2. There is a business park outside of Budapest named after Adam Bogdan. And statement number 3. Loris Karius enjoys a close personal friendship with Justin Bieber.
Okay, I'm going to immediately pick you up on the last one. How close is this relationship?
They have got each other's mobile numbers.
And
that close. And they, text each other, hang out, keep in touch,
And Justin Bieber. So how did they meet? Is that clear on how they know each other?
They met in a hotel where they were both staying one summer. and passing each other in what might be called the foyer or the lobby in American terms. They just happened to remark on each other's tattoos. And Justin Bieber said, "Hey man, I like your tattoos." And Loris Karius said, probably in less fluent English because he's German, "Hey man, I like your tattoos. We should hook up." And they swapped. They got talking. They swapped details. They kept in touch, and now they're firm friends.
Right. And what was how long ago did this happen?
This was the summer he signed for Liverpool.
Right. And there's no more information on why they were in the same place. Was that just coincidence, I'm guessing? Or
Karius was on holiday. Bieber obviously lives on the North American continent and was just... I think he might have just been having a break from touring and recording and was just staying in a big fancy hotel. Karius was on his first trip to America, just before signing for Liverpool. Other than that, it was just fate brought them together, but fate forges firm friendships, as they say in PLastic Scousers podcasts.
It sounds really weird, but I don't know. So let's move on. Nathaniel Klein has grandparents of 4 different nationalities, yeah?
Yes, he does. And so obviously, if you've got a grandparent of one nationality, that is a close enough link to be able to play for them internationally if you don't get called up.
Now, of course,
anyone else.
One of those is English.
Yeah.
Because he has played for England in the past. I'm guessing. Tell me who the other 3 are.
Grenada in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Wales, next to England, and Egypt.
Thank you for clarifying that it was next to England.
That's it.
That's helpful information.
England, Grenada, Wales, and Egypt.
Okay, now I'm going to assume the Welsh and the English are a grandparent couple.
No, actually.
Oh.
It's the Welsh and the Grenada and the English and the Egypt. Because, well, his maternal grandfather was English and met his maternal grandmother, who was Egyptian, when he was serving in the Suez conflict.
That's a bizarre thing to know.
I know. It took a bit of digging, but... Well, no, it didn't. It
a lot of digging.
Just Google Nathaniel Klein facts. But,
okay, so the other couple, the paternal couple...
Yes.
And who were the 2 there? So it was
Welsh grandmother on his dad's side, and the Grenadan grandfather.
So you're basically telling me that the name Klein is Grenadan?
Yes.
Right. It doesn't sound very Grenadian to me. Considering that I know someone from Grenada, and he's called Mukasa, which sounds a bit more Grenadian to me. Klein sounds like, Klein doesn't sound very Caribbean-y to me, personally.
That's interesting, because the only person I know from Grenada is the surname Briggs.
Briggs.
And weirdly, she was the mum of Matthew Briggs, who was the first player born in the 90s to score in the Premier League. No, to play in the Premier League, sorry. Matthew Briggs used to play for Fulham. He was born in 1997? No, 1987. Must have been.
Right.
I can't remember. Yeah, he was born in 1990, and he made his Fulham debut in 2007. At the time, he was the youngest player in Premier League.
Right.
Anyway, he's from Grenada. That's the only.
Interesting. Right. Okay, I'm going to move on from that one because I'm very suspicious about that. And so, what was the second one you said? Sorry.
There's a business park just outside of Budapest named after Adam Bogdan.
Now, I'm assuming it's called the Bogdan Business Park or the Hungarian equivalent. Yeah,
in Hungarian it's Ipari Kozpon Adam Bogdan.
Why is it named after him?
Well, it was when it opened about 12 years ago when he was still playing in Hungary for Vasas SC. I presume that's how you pronounce it, Vasas, Vasas, VASAS SC, which is a club in a suburb of Budapest, a Hungarian capital, as you know. And he'd just been named their Player of the Year, and they wanted a local celebrity to open this new business park, and he was... I mean, they're quite a small club. They're not like... They're probably like the Hungarian equivalent of like Swindon Town or something like that. They're not like the Hungarian equivalent of Man City. And so it was a sort of local thing, and they wanted, someone famous to open it. And he'd just been named their Player of the Year at the end of his first season since coming through the sort of academy at the club. And so they asked if he'd do it. And so he did, and it became known as the Adam Bogdan Business Park because he'd opened it, and it was just a sort of gesture to acknowledge that fact and celebrate, Hungarian talent and entrepreneurship and innovation.
I have to admit, the moment you said, to celebrate it, you started to fall away like you were clearly lying and trying to drag it out. That was brilliant. I completely don't believe that, I'm afraid.
Well,
because
might be your funeral.
No one in there, no one who has just been a Player of a Year once for a local club who aren't even that big suddenly has a big thing named after them. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't
you say
happen.
that. There's a street in Lagos named after Taiwo Awoniyi.
Yeah, but that's a street, not a business park. That's huge.
Arguably
in a much bigger country.
Arguably, a street has got more heritage than a business park.
Well, yeah, but you're going to name such a big area that might become quite a big sort of industrial area for... I don't know, that doesn't make any sense to me at all, that you would do that. It would be like a business partner here called the Luka Milohojevic Business Park. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
You might get the Luka Milohojevic Crystal Palace Business Park.
Have you not heard of the Adam Lafondra Shopping Centre just outside of Reading?
That's called the Oracle.
Yes, sorry.
Again, right.
There was a bomb threat there the other day, did you see?
No. I don't live in Reading. How would I know?
You're closer than I am. Well, actually, you might not be.
No, we don't know. Probably not. Actually.
Anyhow.
So, okay. So it's Nathaniel Klein and his 4 grandparents. It's Adam Bogdan's business park, which I sort of want to be true, but I don't think it is.
If I recall upon Adam Bogdan.
The thing is, because I don't believe the other two, I'm tempted to say the Carius one, but the thing is, when I did this last time, I think I got both wrong because I kept going for the one I thought was the most wrong turned out to be the right one, and I was just utterly flabbergasted. And maybe it's the same again.
Was that Nathan Eccleston believing 9/11 was an inside job?
No, but more baffling was that John Barnes has his own race car series.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true.
I still don't believe, even though I've seen it to be true. I just don't think it's possible because he's never ever. Oh, screw it. Carius Justin Bieber. I think that feels like the only one that it's smaller, and I think there's nothing telling me it's not that, whereas I think it's telling me it's not the other two. Done. Decision made.
Well, Matt, I can tell you that Nathaniel Klein is of English and Granadan descent. Nothing to do with Wales and Egypt. But if you take the 16A bus out of Deák Ferencváros, the main transport hub in the city of Budapest, and stay on it for about an hour and a half going east, knows where you end up. That's completely made up. You are correct.
Yes.
It is Loris Karius and Justin Bieber being firm friends.
That's the first one I've got right in this game. I'm really proud.
Congratulations. Good work.
So, that is a great story. How did you find that out?
Wikipedia, I think. Well, can I just point out, I went to the effort of translating Adam Bogdan Business Complex into Hungarian.
Yeah, but I've had to do that. I did that with the Ragnar Klavan's
that was it.
Ragnar Klavan's Greenery, whatever it was.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've all tried to do it. So anyway, that was good. I like that. So let's do another one.
Go on.
Prepare yourself. Fact number 1, Owen. Fernando Torres signed his first playing contract on the back of a napkin.
Ooh.
Fact number 2. Luis Suarez's daughter's name is an anagram of Anfield. Fact number 3. Jari Litmanen once played 2 football matches in a single day.
Wow, all of those sound weirdly plausible. Let's start at the top. Fernando Torres on a napkin. Tell me more.
So when he was about 13, 14, and he was playing in the sort of, I don't know where, I think Madrid, where he grew up. A bunch of scouts from Atletico went to watch his team play, and ended up basically going to his parents. We want to sign him now. We absolutely, he is brilliant. He's the best thing we've probably seen in a long time. We need to sign him straight away. So they ended up going for a sort of dinner together at a restaurant or whatever with him, Fernando Torres, and the parents and the people who, the representatives of Atletico Madrid that evening. Literally, they were like, right, we're going to go straight away now and discuss this. So they took them away and they went to this restaurant, and basically they hadn't had a chance to draw up any contracts. They'd obviously contacted the club and said, look, we need to get contracts over here, but we want you to sign now because we don't, we want this done immediately, because we apparently there had been interest from other, from Real Madrid and other clubs as well were interested in him. But Fernando Torres wanted to sign for Atletico. So what they ended up doing was scribbling essentially the basic details of a contract, and on the back of a napkin, and getting Fernando Torres to sign it then and there to say he'd agreed to then the basic terms, and to then sign the real contract in 2 or 3 days' time, whenever it was, when they could.
Are there not slightly dodgy legal implications of that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's different because obviously it's Spain. I don't quite know. It's not exactly the same as here. I think it was it's like a bit of a loophole, because essentially it is a preliminarily signed agreement, if that makes sense. And as long as it is witnessed and signed by both a lawyer and the representative parties or something, then you're allowed to do it, I guess. And if all the details there, you're essentially confirming what is written down in textual form.
Okay, so why a napkin?
It's the first thing they had to hand in the restaurant, apparently. It's the only thing they had. It's like, right, let's do this now. Here we go. I almost think the way they sort of talked about it was almost like it's a bit of a joke. But it ended up being quite serious. They were sort of like, oh, do you want to sign this napkin? And it's like, can we actually do that? Yeah, okay. And then they did it, and then that counts. The lawyer was like, yeah, that's now a signed contract. So.
Okay. Plausible. Jari Litmanen.
Yes.
2 football games in one day. Professional, are we talking?
Yes.
Professional standard games?
Yes, absolutely professional.
Who were they for?
So HJK, which I think is a Helsinki club, which I think Jari Litmanen started at. He didn't. I can't quite remember.
That is a Helsinki club. That's where Alan Rodriguez de Souza went on loan.
Okay. And also the Finnish international team.
Okay, that changes things. Tell me more.
So the Finnish, so there was qualifying going on in for the European Championships of '92, I think it was. Was it '92 the European Championships? Yeah, it was. Yeah, European Championships 1992. And because of the way the Finnish league is kind of more based on the year calendar, so it's from March to October or something, because of the sunlight and all stuff in Finland, the games clashed on the same day. And this was back in the early 90s, where people didn't care as much. And Jari Litmanen was a star for Helsinki and for the Finnish national team, even though he was only sort of 19, 20 at the time. And so there was a league game at lunchtime between Helsinki and I don't know who it was against, but he played in that and then agreed, because the evening game was also in Helsinki, where Finland were playing the Faroe Islands in a group match. And so he then went, and I think he appeared as a second half substitute for Finland in that as well.
Blimey. And did he win?
They won the Finland international game. I don't know about the other one. There wasn't any information on it, but I know the Finland did win the game against Faroe Islands. He didn't score, but he did get on.
Again, very plausible. Weirdly plausible. And then remind me what the other one was?
Luis Suarez's daughter's name is an anagram of Anfield.
Okay, obvious question. What is her name?
Her name is Delfina.
Delfina. That sounds like...
Don't Google it, I can hear you typing.
I'm not, I'm just typing it out so I can see it.
Right.
Delfina. I'm honestly not Googling it.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
No, I know.
And I'm also just typing it out to check that it's all letters from Anfield. Because the thing about anagrams is if you tell people something's an anagram, they instinctively believe you without checking. The most famous example is Barack Obama. for a while it went viral that it was an anagram of Bomb America.
That makes no sense.
Well, exactly, but people just are inclined to believe it. Delphina feels like a name, but it feels like a name of like a Nintendo character, like someone like Princess Peach and Delphina. Do you know what I mean?
Is that where you think I get my lies from? It's just
Well,
Nintendo games.
I think it's something that might be in your kind of cultural consciousness anyway. But then it seems too much of a coincidence that something that you already know about is an anagram of Anfield. And I think, like, I can believe that Luis Suarez had a daughter while he was over here, because that sort of fits with how old he is. But it's not a very kind of Uruguayan name, is it? And if you think he wanted to call her something connected with Liverpool, why not call her, like, Silla? Or Farah, after Farah Williams, probably captain of the Liverpool ladies. Okay, so we got that. How old is she now, Delphina?
She is about 6 or 7.
Oh, okay. Ah, okay. So she'd have been born 2012 at the latest, then, when he'd only been here a year. So that follows.
No, sorry, I just had to look that up. No, she's 9.
She's 9. So she was born in 2009. So she was born before he even played for Liverpool. Now, why would you go to the effort of taking the football stadium of a club you've never played for, rearranging it into a name, and then giving it to your daughter? Unless it's nothing to do with the fact he played for Liverpool and it's just utter coincidence.
I love hearing your brain work.
That seems too much of a coincidence. It's not a Uruguayan name. It doesn't sound at all Uruguayan. So I don't think he'd have called it that just by chance. But I don't see why he'd have called, like, it'd be like me having a baby and, like, calling it, Alan Bremmel, as an anagram of Bramall Lane.
Whatever that means. Come on, hurry up, Owen. You need to make a decision here.
Okay, well, I'm going to discount Suarez. All right. I'm going to discount Suarez. So it's Yari Lippmann or Fernando Torres. I think you're right with this. Oh, see, that sounds very plausible that they'd get him to sign a contract on a napkin. But then so does the Yari Lippmann one. And you say it was the early 90s. I think Spanish legal practices are lax, but I think they're lax enough that they wouldn't even bother to get a pre-contract signed. I'm going to go for Yari Lippmann, playing 2 games in one day.
So you discounted Fernando Torres signing his first contract on the back of a napkin?
Yes, out of a possibly slightly un-PC view of the Spanish legal system.
Well, if you hadn't added that addendum, you would have been absolutely right. No, Fernando Torres didn't sign his first playing contract on the back of a napkin, but Lionel Messi did.
Oh, no way.
Absolutely, that is true.
Oh, wow.
So I just wanted to get that fact in here, and I thought that was a good way of doing it.
That's a good fact.
Isn't it really good? And you discounted Luis Suarez's daughter's name being an anagram of Anfield.
This is going to be the one, isn't it?
Based on the fact that you don't think... I didn't quite understand your logic, but something to do with the fact you didn't think he'd name it after a club he'd never played at or been to when he didn't know who was signing for it. Basically, you're wrong. Luis Suarez's daughter's name is Delphina. It is an anagram of Anfield.
Why? How come? Is that just complete coincidence?
This is a complete coincidence.
That's insane.
Yep. His daughter was born 6 months before he joined Liverpool, and by complete coincidence was named Delphina, which is an anagram of Anfield.
That's utterly mental.
I know, right? It's crazy. Well, sadly, that means Yari Lippmann didn't play 2 matches in one day. Well, I really wish he did now. Yeah,
that's a really good... that would have been really cool as well.
Do you know there is a current Premier League... someone involved in the Premier League who has.
Ooh.
You will never get it, but...
I might know. Tell me who it is. I will never get it.
Mark Hughes.
Oh, really?
Played for Wales, and I think did he play for Bayern Munich? I think he might have done. Yeah, on the same day.
So, Matt.
Absolutely, let's do this.
Danny Ings still works part-time as a bricklayer. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is a distant relation of former UK Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. And Alberto Moreno has got a tattoo on his leg of a gun-toting chimpanzee in sunglasses.
I like that. I just like the image of that. It's great. I imagine it's got a cigar for some reason. Okay, first one. So you say he still works as a bricklayer. So he must have worked as a bricklayer before. Is that right?
Well, his dad's a bricklayer. His dad's got a fairly substantial bricklaying firm down on the south coast, and he used to help out with that when he was sort of trainee, and he still does when he goes home now for like holidays and kind of close season, when players will get a couple of weeks off. When kind of Loris Karius is going and meeting Justin Bieber in hotels, Danny Ings goes back and works as a bricklayer with his dad. And he says it helps him just reconnect with what's important. He doesn't want to go and, splash about in Dubai and all of that and do the whole kind of fancy celebrity football thing. He likes to just go back to his roots, go back to his family, spend a bit of time with his family, do a bit of honest work and, just remember where he came from.
So what did he do when he was injured for 2 years?
Well, a lot of it was rehabilitation, obviously, but he also spent some time at home. He didn't actually do any physical bricklaying himself, obviously, but he did spend some time at home, and he would occasionally sort of, help his dad with the accounts. Just, keep involved in business in whatever way he could when he was still having to focus on, because that's not really holiday time, obviously, that's sort of injury time. So it's not
speak,
like, so to speak. So it's not like he had the time off where he didn't have anything to do. So he still wanted to kind of get involved in a time when he wasn't at Melwood and in Liverpool. But obviously you can't completely give up on your actual day job when you're still technically at work, when you're not, on holiday time. So he didn't really do much when he was injured, but he sort of, during previous international breaks, before he joined Liverpool, when he wasn't playing for England, so like when he didn't play for a club but had sort of, stringent training during international break.
Yeah, I'm going to move on. So Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is distantly related to Neville Chamberlain. Now, how do you know this? How does he know this?
Well, how do you know you're related to anyone? His family told him.
Okay. Have they shown him sort of a lineage, or does he ever said sort of how they know, or is there like any information at all, basically?
It's on his dad's side. It was it's either his great great uncle or his great 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 uncle. But obviously, when you get to sort of that level, the tree spreads out so widely, and that you have four grandparents, but then twice as many great grandparents, then twice as many great great grandparents.
Yeah.
So it's not it's a direct link, but it's not a particularly strong link. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like it grows exponentially every time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so obviously his double-barreled surname. Weirdly, his dad's name is Oxlade-Chamberlain. His surname isn't from a combination of his mum being Oxlade and his dad being Chamberlain. His mum took her husband's name, and so I think it was his grandparents that were Oxlade and Chamberlain, double-barreled it for Alex, his dad, and then he just kept his dad's name, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Okay, and where did you find this information out? Was there like an interview he did or something, or?
It wasn't an interview he did. It was when he first came through at Southampton, and it kind of became known. Obviously, that was before he was playing for England, before playing for Arsenal. It was just like a little kind of tidbit of, fun fact. Our new number 10 or whatever number is connected to, I was going to say British royalty, but it's the opposite of that. The former Prime Minister. Yeah.
Okay. And so, repeat the last one to me, sorry?
Alberto Moreno has a tattoo on his leg of a gun-toting chimpanzee in sunglasses.
Amazing. When did he get that?
A couple of years ago.
Was that while he was with us still?
It was while he was still at Liverpool, yeah.
Okay. And has he explained why he decided to get that particularly?
No, he's not. He's posted it on Instagram a lot. with captions such as "Check out my new tattoo" or "Rocking the monkey look." But no, he's not actually offered an explanation of why. I think it's just a random thing that appealed to his slightly bizarre sense of humour.
I mean, there's not much more I can really ask about that, to be honest.
You can ask about a type of gun.
I don't really want to be honest.
Okay.
And so I think I've already made my decision because
it's good because I don't really know one type of gun from another.
there's a big one, there's a small one.
Well, there's like a
one that goes and one that goes bang bang.
Pretty much. That's basically all I know about guns.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I think I'm going to make my decision because I think I know. Because as soon as you said, "Oh, he posts on Instagram a lot," I immediately didn't think it was Alberto Moreno because I follow him on Instagram and I've never seen that before. So I'm almost certain that that's a lie. I also think you're lying about Danny Ings, partly because you were rambling too much, but also because you said, "Oh, he's not really big on the whole going to footballer and going out on expensive flashy holidays and stuff." But I've seen a lot of his social media posts and he does a lot of that. So I'm going with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Neville Chamberlain.
Remind me what your rationale was for not choosing Danny Ings?
But because he was, because you said he's not, well, apart from the fact that you seem to be rambling on too much, which makes you think you're lying. Also, well, he was injured for 2 years, and, I just found that all a little bit like you were just making up as you went along. And also the fact that you said he doesn't like going out and doing flashy things on social media. I see a lot of him doing that on holidays and stuff with his missus and his dog. So that's why I didn't choose that one.
Interesting. Matt, check your Skype inbox. You will see, for the benefit of listeners who don't have access to Matt's Skype inbox.
Is that a monkey with a gun?
It's a tattoo on Albert Moreno's thigh of a gun-toting chimpanzee.
Yeah, when did he get that?
April 2016, apparently.
Oh, that's probably why I haven't seen it then.
It's probably why we lost a bloody Europa League final.
Well, there we go. Oh, I really wanted the Neville Chamberlain one to be true.
I know I kind of did after I made it up, but I do quite like the chimpanzee. I mean, it's sort of horrid, but...
Because I'd not seen it at all on social media, so that really threw me. But it was much earlier on in his career when I didn't follow him.
Well, it was only 2 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't follow him 2 years ago.
Fair enough. But yeah, Albert Moreno's got a chimp on his leg.
There we go.
How this hasn't got more widely known, I do not know.
It's because he's covered in them.
Well, that's true. He's covered in monkeys.
And with covered in monkeys, that is the end of the season 2017-18 season review podcasts that we've done over the last year. It's been quite a ride. It's been a mammoth ride, and it's despite its slightly sour end. I think there is hope for the future, and I think this summer could be crucial. We say that every summer, to be fair, but we need to maintain momentum now. We need to get some, build the strength of the squad up. I think Fabinho will be a great improvement. I think Naby Keita coming in July could be a real revelation for us, and I'm looking forward to seeing who else we might get in as well.
Can we finish by just giving a special congratulations to, we know him and we'll always know him as King Kenny, but the rest of the country and the world will now know him as Sir Kenny Dalglish, knighted this month for his services to football and to the community of Liverpool in the wake of the Hillsborough disaster. A well-deserved and long overdue recognition for one of this country's greatest footballing servants and one of its greatest men. So yes, congratulations, Sir Kenny.
And what would you call him if he was having a drink? Especially one through a straw. Sir King Kenny.
Sir Oh God.
Yes.
End it now.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for listening throughout the last 10 months. It's been great. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to message us about, or jokes that are as good as what you've just heard, to tell us, and just let us know you're listening. Actually, it's really nice to hear from anyone who might want to. You can on our Twitter handles. I'm at MTH Simpson.
I'm at OGB Collins.
Or you can follow us at PLastic as well. You can find us on YouTube, search Simpson and Collins. And most importantly, find us on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts and hit that subscribe button, get downloading, and get listening because we really enjoy doing it. as for what's coming up, of course, it's the World Cup. And in typical Plastic Scousers fashion, we will be doing sod all about it.
Yeah, as Liverpool aren't taking part, it's not. Although, Trent Alexander-Arnold is, which is nice to see. But other than that,
not really that fast.
Yeah, not a lot going on.
So instead, probably once that's over, we are going to do our annual, what is now becoming an annual tradition of getting leathered for your amusement, with another one of our yearly reviews, in which we'll hand out some awards. We'll do a few forfeits on each other, which we've challenged each other to do pretty much every year for the last 3 years now.
Yep.
Might talk about some football, might play some games, and generally it's just a good laugh, really.
It is. It's a good way to let off steam after a long season. Especially
one that ended like that.
Yeah.
So we'll hopefully do that around July and get that out before the end of July. We'll see. It depends on Owen can get his ass down to London, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm yes. Right.
Yes, I will try to do that. But yeah, any last messages for the listeners before we wrap up the 2017-18 season?
I don't think anything can beat last words. Draw them with monkeys. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us through another absolutely insane season. We had 56 games. We had goals galore. We had surprises. We had fantastic results. Heartbreaking decisions. We lost one of our best players. We gained a new hero. I'll say all this at the end of the season review. I don't know if it's the end of this now. Well, yeah, I'll stick with crawling with monkeys.
Fantastic. Yes, and until we hear from you guys in the summer, it's bye from the both of us, and let's get drunk.
Yes, oh, I am a Liverpudlian, and I come from the Spaniards. I love to sing, I love to shout, I get thrown out quite a lot. We support the team that's dressed in red. It's a team that you all know. It's a team that we call Liverpool, and to glory we will go. We've won for the